Hey, welcome to the 464th episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Sacred Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing more off my minds. I've been trying to do more off my minds, just like random topics. I just did one talking about big franchises and what do you do when like the lead actor decides to quit or leaves or contracts up or whatever. I mean, do you recast and continue? Do you just reboot, start over, or do you just like continue without? And this was mainly influenced by last week when I was talking about Evil Dead, and some people were saying that it's not Evil Dead if Bruce Campbell's not in there, and so forth. So you can hear about that and more. You can also purchase them individually without being a member of, you just go to the shop on there. But do it on a web browser, not on the iOS app, because they will charge you more. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. And that is ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. All right, what do we have going on at like the middle of summer? But I feel like summer's almost over. I feel like I'm going to be going back to work soon, which, yeah. But what do we have this week? Our movie feature is The Odyssey. Whose Odyssey is it? Is it Homer's Odyssey? Is it Christopher Nolan's Odyssey? Is it Matt Damon's Odyssey? You can hear about that movie, and I will just say, holy crap, man. I was blown away by this. And you know me, what do I always say? I'm not a fan of the old-timey movies, the stuff that's in the past, but this was amazing. And I'll say, I'm going to talk about it later. Definitely try to see it in IMAX if you can. Try to see it in the biggest, screen you can with the best sound. It's just, it's really something to see, and I feel blessed. I'm so fortunate that now I have an IMAX theater a lot closer, and I don't have to drive into the city because, yeah, that was great. What else do we have? We're gonna have an episode aside. We need to talk about Silo. I really enjoyed a show. I don't know if you listeners are even watching the show, even care about the show. And part of it is because, like, when I do the news roundup and everything, I never see anyone talking about. I never really see anyone talking about the Apple shows, and it's so baffling because I feel like the Apple shows are really good. We had the show Lucky with Anya Taylor-Joy that has started. I don't even know when that started. I think there's only 3 episodes out. I didn't know anything about it. And it's like crazy that there's like all this good stuff there, but it's like I subscribe to the channel, the service, the stream, or whatever you want to call it. But it's like I didn't know anything about it, and yeah, so so I'm debating if I should continue with Silo or not. I'm going to keep watching it. I just don't know if I should be talking about it if there's people that want to hear about do the recaps and so forth. We'll have another episode of My Adventure with Superman, which is crazy. Spoiler, the episode is called The Death of Superman. It's like, holy crap, you're going there already? We're in season 3, and I adore this show. It's so good. And with X-Men 97, we're going to do 2 episodes. We'll do 2 episodes this week. Because since I'm a little bit behind, since they did 3 episodes the first week. So now, I guess I'm still behind now that I think about that. Because I think last week the 5th episode was out, so I'm still gonna be like about a week and a half behind, something like that. So we'll get episodes 3 and 4, which is the Rise of Apocalypse episodes. So we'll have all that plus comics, and let's do some news. So with I just want to say again with the Odyssey, 3 hours long. It did not seem like that. And it's so weird when people talk about when it comes to running time, I don't know what people want or people expect, or if it matters. Because I always hear if a movie's a little longer, people are like, "Oh, it dragged on." And I keep saying, if I'm paying $15, $20, $25, whatever, I want the movie to be as long as possible. I want to get as much content. I'm also one where I don't mind like deleted scenes or whatever. And I think the more that we have, the better. And obviously there are times where scenes are cut for a reason. It makes sense because it does slow down the pace or just whatever. But with the Odyssey, I didn't feel it dragged or anything like that. But now we have the runtime has been revealed for Zach Cregger's Resident Evil. And I'm a little concerned, but maybe not so much. So the runtime, because it seems like what is the ideal runtime? It does seem a lot of movies tend to kind of hover around the 2-hour mark, maybe a little below, maybe a little more. That seems to be like the sweet spot that people really, I guess, kind of expect for, especially like the bigger production movies. Because I've always said, if it's less than 90 minutes, I'm very concerned. I'm like, okay, this is kind of like I don't want to say like a low budget. And I always think, one example that I was surprised that I actually went to the movie to see this because of the runtime. But it's a movie, Crawl, the alligator. There's like a flood and there's a movie about these killer alligators, whatever. I forget what the runtime was, and I don't want to like pause and look that up. But it was definitely, I think it was like closer to 80 minutes. And to me, that's kind of crazy because especially when you look at 80 minutes, that's an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, if you round it, that rounds to an hour or an hour and a half, I guess. But it's to me, it's always been that if it's less than 90 minutes, that's almost just like an hour long like TV thing or whatever. But what I will say about Crawl, I remember I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I was entertained. It wasn't a fantastic, amazing movie, but it was fun. Now with Resident Evil, when we're talking about the Resident Evil stuff, it's like, okay, this is like big epic stuff. We've got all these video games. There's all this history and lore and facts and characters and just so much there. And it's like, how can you do Resident Evil as one movie? It's like layers and layers. There's like got to be so much stuff to try to do. The movie is going to be 95 minutes. And it's like, wait, what? 95 minutes? It's like, how do you start telling the story and then it'll be over? But in the movie's defense, which obviously I have nothing to defend you because I don't know anything more than the one trailer. I feel like maybe 95 minutes isn't bad because if we're looking at this, Zach Cregger, it seems he's not looking to like reinvent the franchise or anything like that. We know there's not going to be any Leon Kennedy or Chris Renfield or Jill. We're not getting any of the major characters. And it feels like, I don't know if it said that it was like a year into it. So we're not getting like the origin of it. We're not seeing the outbreak. We're not going to see like the Umbrella Corporation doing their experiments and this or that or anything like that. It's like, okay, this is out there. Maybe, was it a year into it? I don't know. And then the main character we know is like, he's supposed to be like a messenger, like a delivery guy or something like that. And he's like trying to survive. It'd be a little different because if you bring in like Leon Kennedy or something like that, it's like, okay, he's obviously trying to solve the bigger problem and, whatever. He's on some sort of big mission. And that probably couldn't really be told in 95 minutes unless it was like a part, like a first act or whatever. So if you just have like random dude, and I don't mean that as an insult, but he's not like a big character in the scope. He's not going to get his own video game or whatever. But if we got random dude trying to survive, then maybe 95 minutes isn't really that bad, because going along the pace or the thinking where you don't want it to drag on. And if it's just about some guy trying to survive who doesn't have any like field experience or training or anything like that, then it could get redundant where he's like running and hiding, getting attacked, hiding, trying to go over here, getting attacked. And that, it's going to be a bit much. So if we, get 95 minutes. It could be like, the Wham Bam, Thank You Ma'am, or In and Out, or whatever you want to say. Those sound extremely like sexual, which is not what I intended, especially when you're talking about zombies. But maybe 95, just go in there, tell a story, and it could help. Maybe it'll make it a faster paced movie, because something like this, while there should be slow and creepy moments, but again, if it's like super long, like, there's a scene where he like goes down like a manhole tunnel. If he's creeping along super, super slowly and it's like 5 minutes or 10, that could be like, okay, what's going to happen? And yeah, it might build up suspense, but then it could also be like, okay, enough already. What's going to jump out at him? So maybe 95 minutes isn't bad. And hopefully like the 95 minutes will mean a lower budget. I don't even know if it's been told what it is, but we're looking at everything where it's like, oh, this isn't profitable. So it's almost like, you need these smaller budget movies nowadays. And I mean, because you look at what are the two big movies of a year, what the smaller movies, we got Obsession, we got Backrooms. These are two movies that were made with very small budgets and have exploded. What does this mean? There's been talks of like, well, maybe it's like the younger viewers, they want different things and they don't want these big franchises. It's like He-Man and whatever Masters Universe isn't something that they would care about or know about. And, we're pouring all this money into these big franchises and people aren't really going to see it. Maybe there's something to it. Well, I mean, I wish this, very, as much success as possible because, I would like to see more, and I love the franchise, and I'm really on board with seeing something different, because if you want like Leon Kennedy and all that, watch those CG movies. I mean, I feel like they've done a decent job with those. So, we got non-video game stories with the main characters, so you can check that out. What about Doctor Who? I still have no idea what's going on, and it's unfortunate. I have, I grew up with Doctor Who. I watched it as a kid, and I was always so fascinated with it. And while I haven't seen loads of episodes, I haven't seen the Peter Capaldi episodes. I haven't seen all the Jodie Whittaker episodes. I still consider myself like a big fan, and I enjoyed the last. Was it only one season, or was it two? I think it was only one. But the ones on Disney Plus, they were fine. I feel like they had enough, and I'm sure hardcore Doctor Who fans would have issues. But it's like everyone has issues with something or other. I thought for the most part they had elements and changing things up because we don't want just the same thing, whatever. But now. Probably partly because of people crying about the fact that the Doctor got emotional and shed some tears at times. Which is just ridiculous because every time he regenerates, he's essentially like a different person. And maybe this Doctor is just a little more emotional. Or, and the fact that he's seen so much, it's either he's going to be completely jaded and cold and whatever, or maybe he's tired from. Seeing so much, death and destruction and evil, fighting evil over and over and over again, that could be tiring. So we're at a place where we have no Doctor Who. We're not going to get the Christmas special episode this year. No idea what's going to be next, who's going to be the Doctor, what's going to happen. We have no idea. But apparently, and we don't even know where it's going to end up because I guess the Disney contract is over. So what we have, what the latest is the BBC, and I guess I don't know who owns the right. I always thought it was like BBC, but I think I thought I read that like the BBC is like bidding on trying to be the next producer or host. I don't know, whatever it is, and they said something like we've been hosting or producing it for the last 60 years, and we want to do it for the next 60 years, or whatever. So. That's fine. I don't know what the solution is because a lot of people talk about like Russell T Davies, and which is weird because people loved him, And then now a lot of people are like, oh, he shouldn't have come back, and he I don't know what people want, and I don't know if it's that vocal minority that complains about everything, or if it is, that is a general consensus that no one liked. I don't know, but I hope we get more Doctor Who soon, and they find some formula that will work for everyone. X-Files is sort of coming back. The 2008 movie, which I think was I Want to Believe. I don't even remember. Because how many movies were there? Were there 2 movies? Or were there 3? There's Fight the Future. I Want to Believe. I don't remember. But apparently, when the movie came out in 2008, they had to cut some stuff out in order for it to get a PG-13 movie. It happens all the time. But for whatever reason, that extra stuff wasn't released. So when it came out on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever at the time, they didn't include the extra scenes. I don't know if anyone's ever seen this, but apparently they're going to release an R-rated version of that movie. At first it was supposed to be on Disney Plus. I think it was listed as June, but then it never came out. And I think now it might be Hulu, but if your Hulu and Disney are combined, maybe you'll see it. It's supposed to be August 14th. And when I saw, I think the first I heard about this, I'm late to the game. I think I saw it on Facebook, and I don't know who posted about it. It was one of those suggested posts. There's so many entertainment things, whatever. But it was a picture, a promo shot of Mulder and Scully kind of looking almost like their foreheads touching and everything. And it's R-rated X-Files movies. I'm what are you saying here? Are you going to add the SE in front of the movie title? Think about that. But no, that's not what it's about. It's apparently what was cut out is they said that it was too scary. There's some scenes that were too intense or whatever, and the ratings board didn't like that, so they had to cut that out. That's exciting. I'm definitely down to see it because I probably haven't watched it since 2008, so I'm definitely down to see that, and it'll take me a moment to where are we in the continuity of things? When does this take place? Because I love that show, even though I haven't watched it since then, but it was so good. There's a bunch of X-Men rumors, and you know how I feel about the rumors, but apparently Margot Robbie, they're saying she's in talks. Marvel wants her for X-Men or whatever like that. And a lot of people, I guess, were speculating oh, she's going to play Emma Frost. But then someone's no, it's not Emma Frost. It's Mystique. And then the sources of the people. This was a different scooper that I don't remember who it was. It wasn't one of the regular ones. But, it's my source told me. It's all these people with their sources. And again, it completely baffles me. Who is sharing this information with these random people that maybe they have a Patreon, or maybe they have a website, or maybe they have a YouTube channel, or maybe they have a podcast? To me, it just seems crazy. And I know I've talked about this over and over and over again. It just seems crazy in this day and age when job security, unless you're someone like Christopher Nolan or whatever, when job security is always on the line, you're going to risk sharing information with someone. I don't know if it's someone you're friends with or someone that you follow their podcast or their YouTube and you think that they're cool and you want to help them out or whatever. But I always wonder, is there financial transactions happening here? Are people being, hey, I'll pay you $100 if you leak me some information or whatever? And because a lot of the time this stuff is not accurate, so it's not. It seems like whenever these scoopers talk about their scoops, it's not like they're getting it from the screenwriter or the director or the act. It's always it must be some random person, and I don't think the random person is necessarily involved with the actual content of the stuff. So, whether it's an assistant or whether it's someone doing lighting or I don't know, but maybe they're yeah, this is what I've heard people talking about. So it's it's not necessarily concrete information. And then these people will post or they'll share it. And, part of it is to try to make a name for them. So it's not like they're doing it for the betterment of mankind or for the entertainment world or for the fans. They're just doing it because they want their name up there as they got this exclusive information. They have the source or whatever. But it just, I don't know, I just find it weird that someone's going to risk their job, whether they got paid or not. I mean, unless they're getting paid an insane amount, but it seems to me if you're running a website, running a podcast, running a whatever, you don't necessarily have the income unless you're somehow, rich. You don't have the income to be like paying out like large sacks of money to information that may not be true. Because even if you post about it, I always say about that, when these things come out, people don't always necessarily remember who was the first person that said that. So it's like, what are you gaining out of it? I don't know. But the person, I always say they might get set up where, again, let's say Johnny Depp, we're gonna leak this information. Here comes Tommy, the coffee boy. And it's like, hey, yeah, I just got, talking to someone else. I just got off the phone with Kevin Feige. Yeah, we got Johnny Depp. He's between you and me, he's agreed to play the Beast. Is the Beast? We got Kelsey Grammer. He's agreed to play. Who Johnny Depp play? He agreed to play Magneto. And our X-Men, don't tell anyone because it's gonna be great. He's coming in the office next week, so we're supposed to clear out and everything like that for that hour. Yeah. Oh, hey Tommy. We need more sugar over in the other break room. Could you? Yeah, thanks, Tommy. And then they set it up. They set Tommy up. This is the only time they say that. And then Scooper number 1 or Scooper number 18 is like, yeah, I just heard Johnny Depp's going to play, Magneto. And then Tommy come into the office, you're fired. You're blacklisted. You will never serve coffee in this town again. I don't know. But the other part of the rumor is if Margot Robbie is if whoever gets introduced as Mystique or whoever, it's not going to be in a movie that maybe they're looking to do like special presentations, kind of like the Punisher thing or Werewolf by Night. And I don't know about that. I mean, it would make sense, because if you, depending on how you want to do it, and this is, I don't know how Marvel's going to introduce X-Men to the Marvel Universe. You have all these mutants. My thing is, you can't be all of a sudden like, boop, mutants now suddenly are popping up, because what does that mean for someone like Professor X or Magneto? Let's say like these long-term mutants who have been mutants for decades. It's not like, 2027, all of a sudden mutants are popping up all over the Marvel Universe. Does that mean that like Professor X just got his telepathic powers? Has he had them and just been in hiding this whole time, not trying to raise, or maybe they've been trying to keep it secret from the public for all this time? And we could have like, Cyclops has had his powers for since he was a teenager for like, let's say 10 years, since maybe he's like mid-20s or something like that. But we've been training him in, our super secret exclusive school and doing it in private. I don't know how they're gonna do all that. But when you are relaunching the X-Men movie, are you going to introduce everyone at once, or are you going to use what I would call the Marvel formula, where it's like, here's Iron Man, here's Hulk, here's Captain America. Did we have anyone else before that? And then, let's bring them together to do an Avengers movie. So we had, here's Thor. We had these individual movies, and then let's put them all together as a team. And I still remember, I won't mention who said this, but someone at the time for DC is like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to like, boom, throw everyone out at once. And I was like, to me personally, I didn't say, obviously I didn't call up like, you shouldn't do that. But I always felt that the Marvel way worked. It was better to see these individual, smaller individual stories, and then bring them together as the Avengers or whoever. Because if all of a sudden you're doing a Justice League movie and like here's the entire Justice League, yes, you listening, me talking, we probably will know who all these characters are. The general public may not know. And even if they've seen past movies with these characters, or maybe they saw a cartoon series or whatever, they're not necessarily going to know who these versions are. We don't necessarily know. If we have Cyborg, was Cyborg part of the Teen Titans, or did he first start in the Justice League? What does he know who Robin is, or have they never met? So you have like all this backstory where we don't know what version of these characters we have, and we don't know. So we're kind of getting that now in this new DC universe where James Gunn is doing this also, where all these characters exist. We don't know how they started. And, there's something about that, something to say, let's not slow things down. Let's not bog every single movie with an origin story. It's like, yeah, Guy Gardner, he got his ring how many years ago? We don't know. It doesn't matter. He's Green Lantern. There you go. It's not necessarily new viewer friendly. These people like, okay, we got a Guy Gardner, we got Hawk Girl, we got Mr. Terrific, we got Metamorpho. It worked in the Superman movie. You can see who these characters are, but they're not going to be necessarily invested in them. Where when you had the Avengers, it's like, oh yeah, I know Thor. He's the one that, he threw his coffee mug down and another when he wanted more coffee because he liked it so much. Or yeah, there's Captain America. We saw him fighting and he's the first Avenger and everything like that. Yeah, Iron Man, we've seen 2 movies with him. So I feel like you're more invested in the characters. What am I even talking about? So, with the X-Men. So yeah, Disney has this platform. So it makes sense. Use your platform that you are feeding content into. Let's make these smaller budget, and even if it's like 30 minutes or, an hour, whatever, make it an hour. Tell the origin of these characters and do it. Don't make it like $100 million thing. Make it a smaller budget. I don't know how much it would cost. Like, I don't know let's see if we can find that. Okay, I just looked up. So it appears, according to Google, that Werewolf by Night was made for about $30 million. Okay? And then Punisher, One Last Shot, it hasn't been publicly disclosed, but it looks like it was like under $40 million. And you look at how much was Supergirl? Like like 175 million or something like that. So you can do these movies, and I don't know, is 30 million, is that a lot for a streamer? I mean, you look at the Netflix stuff, how much those cost, whatever. If you do this, it's like, oh, you want to know about these X-Men characters? Subscribe to Disney Plus and watch this special, whatever, X-Men special #1, X-Men special Magneto, X-Men special Mystique, X-Men special whatever. So it could be a way to get people to subscribe, and there's so many people that you want them to keep subscribing. So if you're going to do a bunch of these, do them one per month. This is why streamers shouldn't drop all episodes at once. String people along, make them commit to more than one, or make them wait and binge. That's fine with me. Well, whatever. Yeah, maybe I don't know. It would be. I don't see Marvel Studios doing this. I would be very surprised if they're like, okay, we're going to introduce some of the X-Men characters by doing specials on Disney Plus, and then we'll put out the movie. But while I don't think they're going to do that, I think it could be a smart move, rather, because there's so many characters, it's going to bog things up. Look at Eternals. I couldn't even tell you who was in that movie. One, I'm not a big Eternals fan. But so let's say someone who doesn't know a lot about whatever these characters, and they introduce all these Eternals. I don't know who they are. You got Icarus and Cersei. Those are the only 2 I know. Is it Icarus? Ikari? Who? I'd say, don't ask me. So I think there's something to say where you do like a focus special. I'm talking way too much about it. Do a focus special on one, get people to know. It's like, oh yeah, that's who this is. What else do we have to talk about? Oh, there's also talk like Adam Driver is going to be an X-Men. You know, people are like, he's going to be Magneto. No, he's not going to be Magneto. He's going to be Mr. Sinister. No, he's not going to be Mr. Sinister. He's going to be William Stryker. It's like, no, believe that. William Stryker. I mean, maybe Adam Driver, he's like, yeah, I'll just do this one movie. I don't want to commit to be Magneto and be in, 10 years of playing the same character. Maybe, but William Stryker. And I say that because I cannot stand William Stryker. He's one of those, he's a scumbag. I don't want to see him. Screw him. But going back to DC, how you say Jolo Mariduena with Miguel from Cobra Kai. Also, not Robbie Reyes. What's his name? Who's he in? He's a Blue Beetle. Jaime Reyes. Jaime. What's his last name? Blue Beetle. He is. I don't think I talked about this last week, but he's supposed to be in Man of Tomorrow. Great, because I thought that Blue Beetle movie was fun. It wasn't perfect, obviously, but I think they did a good job with it, and it came out at an unfortunate time where it's like, okay, the DC, the Snyderverse, this DC current movie universe is coming to an end. Where does this fit? Which is it, on the new one or is it the old one? And it was kind of like after, and it was like supposed to be leaning more towards the new one, but it wasn't official because they didn't want James Gunn. To me, it seems like he didn't want that to be the first official like DCU movie because he wanted Howling Commandos to be the first project. I don't know, but yeah. So okay. But I just worry, like, how many characters are you going to have in this movie, and they're going to be on screen for like 5 minutes? Yeah. The Batman Part 2, we saw like footage. I don't know if it was test footage or first footage. So Robert Pattinson in the suit. February 18th, 2028. This is taking so long. And yes, I always say, don't rush it, make it good. But how long has it been? Will it have been like 6 years, if not? And apparently, I haven't seen a lot of this, but apparently some people are saying, yeah, they should just cancel, the third one because there's supposed to be 3 different of these the Batman movies. Some people feel, oh, Robert Pattinson's getting too old. I think he's just turned 40 or is in his 40. I don't know. So the first one was good. I haven't seen it since, but we'll have to see. This is interesting. Brad Dourif said that he's heard several pitches for an 8th Child's Play movie from Dan Mancini. I'm trying to think now because we're talking Child's Play and Chucky. There's something about the rights because I think I could be wrong. I think like Universal owns the rights to Child's Play, but Chucky, the rights, I don't know who owns the rights to that. So that's why when we had the TV show, it wasn't called Child's Play, it was called Chucky. But my question now, if we're going to get another movie, because the TV show Chucky, it did reference things from some of the movies. We had Jennifer Tilly and the Brad Dourif's daughter. I forgot her character's name, but we had a lot of those elements. Andy was in some of the later movies as an adult, and he was in a TV show. So if we do another movie, is it going to continue from the TV show? Is it going to ignore the TV show? I don't know, but I wish them luck because something about him, and just do it right. I think Brad was saying something that there's like the different like 2 or 3 different ideas are like different from each other, and it might be something that like they haven't done before or something we haven't seen. So it's like, okay, I'm curious. Then the last bit of news, right? I don't think there's anything else. The trailer for Digger came out, the Tom Cruise movie, and it's like, okay. It's definitely something different from Tom Cruise, so that's good. Let him mix things up, and it's basically. So I think I kind of talked about it before when we had the first bit of information was released, where I think he's like some super rich dude, and has some whatever business doing something. I don't know if they're in Alaska or somewhere, and they're messing up a glacier or something like that. And it's basically going to cause like a super tsunami that's going to be like massive destructive to the world or something like that. And whether it's up to Digger to try to save the day, even though he's very selfish and, whatever. So we'll see. It looks interesting. Hopefully you'll think the rest of this episode is interesting, but that is the news for the week. With comic books, we had Space Ghost Annual number 2, and I just keep saying it. I adored the character. Just something about it. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the classic Hanna-Barbera or whatever. I just find it like so fascinating and interesting, and it could be going back to my childhood or whatever. It was before my time, and just when I saw this, there's just something that was so cool about it. And I don't know what it is. It's kind of the character's not like overly complex or anything. So I appreciate these comics and just recapturing that vibe from back in that era and modernizing it, and it's just so we get this story here. I feel like it didn't need to be an annual story. Maybe it was a little longer. I don't remember what the page length was, but it's really a story kind of focusing on Space Ghost, where he's kind of at a crossroads, almost like questioning, should he continue what he's doing? Is he putting the kids, Jan and Jace, right? I always get their names confused with the Wonder Twins, but is he putting their lives in danger and stuff like that? So there's some cool elements here and that. So I can appreciate it. There, of course, there's plenty of action and stuff like that. So it's cool to see, and I'm really digging it. There was I did see at the end, and because I apparently don't follow any comic news, there is going to be a Space Ghost versus a Herculoids coming. I haven't. I used to watch the Herculoids. I haven't read the comics. I think I read the first issue, and then I missed the second issue or something like that, and then I just never got caught up. So that'll be interesting to see what they do there. I don't know. I mean, the Space Ghost and Johnny Quest, I really enjoyed that, and it was surprising how they made it work because they're totally different things. So we'll see about that. There was G.I. Joe number 24. I did not love this. The main story, the main character, whatever, they're not ghosts, but they're these energy projection things, and maybe they were tied to, I might have missed like the explanation for them, last issue or whatever it was, but I don't know if they're I think they're partially tied to Energon and stuff like that, but I just didn't care for the character and the guy fighting him. I forget who it is, and I don't know if he's a newer character, but yeah, it's just like whatever. The only interesting thing here is, there is some dynamic between Baroness and Destro, because obviously they don't have the history that they did in original comics or whatever, and Baroness is basically on G.I. Joe's team, so that's interesting seeing them. They're enemies, but they're kind of forced to fight together because of the situation where they're at and everything. So that was cool. And then there is some stuff with Hawk, because you may or may not know, but somehow Zartan has infiltrated G.I. Joe, and he's posing as Hawk. So we find a little more like what exactly is he up to, and so forth. And so yeah. Stuff is definitely going to hit the fan there soon. We had the Rockefellers number 13. I feel like I might have missed something because, we had that, was it a Trillionaire Kid or whatever? I forget the name of it, the Jeff Johns book, which was great. And it's continuing here. Maybe I didn't miss anything, but Tommy, the kid, he shows up at the Rockefellers with two other, let's call them kids, and his robot servant bodyguard. And so, we're starting this like crossover story, which is great because I love all these characters. What I didn't like I get why we have it, and it does provide for entertainment or whatever, or good visuals and all that. But we basically have good guys fighting good guys. When they first meet, there's always that misunderstanding. Why they might fight, but there's a little more to it. So it's not like, oh, Spider-Man and Daredevil meet for the first time, they're going to start fighting each other, and then they realize, oh wait, we're both good guys. There's a little more as to why things are going on. The main thing is the kid, the Rockefeller kid. He's upset the fact that his dad, he doesn't know if his dad's alive, because is his dad in the future, in the past, what's going on? They don't know what's going, they have no idea. And he's being a little annoying, but he's a kid. But he's just on edge, and he's just blowing up. So we'll have to see where this is going to go. But I'm so excited for this crossover to see all this, like what's going to happen. So I'm really enjoying this. And that was all I read at Image. There was Bad Rock #1, and I'm not going to read that. I saw. I don't even want to talk about it because I just feel it's so incredibly petty or whatever. But there is a panel, and I don't remember if Rob Liefeld posted it. He might have posted it. But basically, Bad Rock is taking a pot shot at Kevin Feige in the Marvel movies. It's like, oh my God, just let it go. You were not invited to the after party. It's like, since then, he is complaining about everything Marvel. And I just feel like even making this comment, it's like a huge insult. He's saying yeah, those Kevin Feige movies are all, bad, or I forget exactly what it said. But it's like, there are other people that are making these movies. Kevin Feige may be in charge of the direction and whatever, but it's like there are different people writing and directing and acting and doing everything else that it takes to make a movie. And, all he does is just piss and moan about it. It's like, okay, where's a Youngblood movie? We had The Orc #6. I'm behind on that. I need to get caught up. There's a couple other things that I didn't read. There's Of the Earth, which I don't remember if I read the first issue or not. So Of the Earth, this is Chris Condon and Andrew Rich is writing it, and Charlie Adlard's doing the art. Yeah, I don't remember if I've read the first issue, and then I'm curious. I want to read that. Then over at Marvel, let's see, there is Alien King Killer #4. Not reading that. We had Amazing Spider-Man Spider-Versity #4. Red Goblin Returns, which is kind of weird because this is not like the main focus of the story, but. I'm enjoying this comic. It's a little weird. I do like the idea of having all these kind of like spider characters training together. It makes sense. And, Norman Osborn seems to have good intentions. He wants them to be ready in case someone like him turns evil. He wants them to be able to stop him. But the fact that he's hiring kind of like low tier villains to give them like more fighting experience, and he's flat out denying that, he's involved with any of that. But it kind of makes sense in a way because, by him paying them off or whatever, he's preventing them from actually committing crimes, because he might be like, okay, hey, I'll pay you to do this. And, whatever, you get defeated and stuff like that, I'll help you out. And then they don't go and rob a bank or do whatever, or potentially harm people. But yeah, things aren't going to go well. And then there's the fact that Spider Girl, whatever her name is, she came across a Carnage, and now I don't know. I'm trying to remember like how exactly it happened. So there's a bit of Carnage. I don't know if it's all of Carnage that was like contained to like a little glob, or if it's just a piece. Because I thought it was like a piece of Carnage, but maybe it's not just a piece. Maybe that was all Carnage was reduced. I don't even remember. But yeah, so that's definitely going to cause some problems. We had Avengers Armageddon #2. There's a lot going on here. The main problem I have is how General Ross, Red Hulk, he like completely lost it. And his main thing is like, okay, Dr. Doom held me prisoner for whatever, so we're going to go and attack Latveria. We're going to call it New America. We're going to do... It's just like he's completely lost it. He's going against orders by the government, and he's always pretty much been by the books, I would think. Maybe he's pushed things when on his hunt for, Hulk back in the day and everything like that. But it just seems like so extreme. And then the fact that, he is fighting Steve Rogers, and he very nearly killed him. And I don't even know if he realized what he did. Or maybe he just doesn't care. So it's just kind of ridiculous. And then we got this other guy, I forgot his name, the other Captain America we saw in a Chip Zdarsky, I think was it a Captain America miniseries, or was it the regular series, where he was a Captain America or shortly after Steve was thawed out and awoke or whatever in the present, but he's got a power amp up, and that might be problems too. But then there is also, I really like Spider-Man here. He has a scene where he goes to visit Steve in the hospital and that, and there's funny interaction with Sharon Carter, and so yeah, I appreciated that. Then we have Captain America number 13. So Captain America is in hell. He's for some reason, he's there. He's not dead, but he's hanging out now with Doctor Doom's soul, and basically they're on this mission. They have to defeat Mephisto to try to save some of the other souls that don't deserve what they're being punished for or whatever. But then we got Red Skull. So I think I don't know if that was a big spoiler. Yeah, he's on the cover. So Red Skull's soul, whatever, is there. Yeah, I thought we were done with him. Fantastic Four number 14. I can appreciate this because there's kind of a math angle to this. But basically, something happens, and it's all the adults kind of get affected. And the only ones that are not affected are Joe and Nikki. Is that their names? The Skrull and the Kree kids that Ben and Alicia have adopted. It's interesting, and they do something because in order to solve the problem, and it has to do with pi and the digits of pi and going way out there. But the way to solve the problem is it involves changing something drastically, which is really, it's so silly and insane, but it's okay, they changed it, and they did change it, and that's why we didn't know about it before. But if you go back and look in this issue, before they change things, you can see, and I'm not going to say what it is, but once you read it, you can see that the other stuff that they were talking about was literally right there in so many panels, and I didn't notice it. I just overlooked it. But then going back to it's oh my gosh, that is so obvious. So that was pretty crazy. Yeah, I should have my kids read that, but that's not going to happen. And by kids, I mean my students. Infernal Hulk number 9. So I guess there's people liking this, but I'm just struggling with it. So Hulk's body is being inhabited by this evil whatever entity. Bruce Banner's been separated, but now he's well, the only way to stop this is by him coming back, and he's working with Dr. Voodoo to try to get a version of his body back, or I don't know. I just don't care. But then we have that Charlie girl that she had an abusive dad, and she ran away from home. I don't remember if her dad died or something like that. And then she was kind of following the Hulk around. She looked up to him, and then she ended up getting pulled into some stuff or whatever. So apparently, because she got turned into this little stone idol thing, and then her body was in some sort of purgatory or whatever. So apparently, I missed this, but she was somehow freed, and now she has kind of werewolf powers. Okay. Yeah, I don't know where we're going with that. Inglorious X-Force, number 7. So yeah, we got Cable and his team. They're working on stuff. They're trying to get information, and part of it is because Kamala Khan, she's president in the future, and she gets assassinated or almost gets assassinated, whatever. So Cable's trying to stop that. But then there's also, I feel like I missed it because I was reading most of the issues, I think, but for some reason Domino was targeting Cable, was against Cable, not working with him. It's like, did he wipe her memory? Because now she's like, she has no idea who she is. She's like somewhere, I don't know, like some Seattle town, or it's not Seattle town. She's somewhere, some outskirts, and she doesn't know who she is. And she just has a picture of X-Force. And then there's these like racist or speciesist or whatever, they hate mutants. So they're like hunting her down. She doesn't even know she has powers. But it's just like crazy that, yeah, her memory's completely gone, and I kind of miss. I feel like I read the issues or skimmed over it, like the last confrontation between Domino and X-Force, but yeah, and then then something happens at the end, so we'll see where that's going to go, but it just seems kind of weird. Okay, then there's Punisher versus Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, this is by Dan Abnett, Matteo De La Fonte, and Rachel Rosenberg. When I saw this, I was like, Punisher versus Amazing Spider-Man. Let me guess, because Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out, and we have Punisher in the movie, Spider-Man movie, okay, whatever. But this was actually really good. I like how it started off, where it looked, there's literally a page that is like the first appearance of the Punisher, where he's on the cover, and he's like, when the Jackal hires him or whatever. This was a really, really fun issue, and it's like a Spider-Man, it's not current continuity. It's not super clear when it is, but we obviously have like a younger Spider-Man, younger Peter Parker here. He knows Punisher. They've had some interactions and team ups or whatever like that, and it's just really interesting. It's a really nice look at the characters, both characters, where it kind of feels like they're both kind of trying to change the other. Spider-Man, he's kind of rooting for the Punisher, trying to, he helps him out, and he's trying to get him to use non-lethal force. And Punisher's actually kind of like, okay, yeah, fine. He's actually going along with it because, this is a point where he's starting to branch out, not just fight drug dealers and mobsters or whatever, but he's going after like some super powered people. So he realizes that he might need someone like Spider-Man. But it's also like the comments himself where his like observations about Spider-Man and how he gets annoyed. So it was just it was really good. The next issue we'll see where that's going to go, but yeah, I enjoyed that. Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Echoes of the Empire #4. So we got more like Rey Skywalker, whatever, in the present or future, whatever, trying to get information, and then continuing getting told the story. So we saw like the Jedi relic, but then it turned out it wasn't really anything. But now it's like after the Empire has fallen, the whole gang, for some reason, they returned to this planet to like return the relic because Luke's promised that he would return it, and since it didn't do him any good, I guess he doesn't need it. But Luke, Leia, R2, 3PO, Chewbacca, and Han Solo, they all go back, and then chaos ensues and stuff like that. So it's fine. What if Jessica Jones? Or what if the radioactive spider bit Jessica Jones? This was I actually enjoyed this. This was a decent issue. A lot of times I feel like the current what ifs are just, they're okay. This was by Justina Ireland and David Messina. Brian Reber did the colors. So there was a couple things I was like, wait, that doesn't really make sense, or is that entire accurate? I don't know. But it was interesting to see how things change, because what they later told us is that Jessica knew Peter Parker in high school, but Peter didn't really know who she was, which is like kind of weird and everything. So it's interesting flipping things or whatever around, and so yeah, I found that interesting. The next issue is going to be like, what if Kraven the Hunter survived Kraven's last hunt? So we'll see where they're going to go with that. But yeah, I like that. Then we had X-Men 33. So this was fine. The main thing is Magneto, Beast, Quentin, and Ben, and Animalia. They're going after one of the 4K's X-Men members, whatever, and trying to get information. And we had Zorn also. Yeah, so it was okay, but I didn't love it. So I'm glad that that's over. Then at DC, I didn't read a whole lot, obviously. We had Dark Knights of Steel 2. So Tom Taylor, he wrote the first one. And it was fine. I forget who did the art on that one. It was fine, but what I didn't love was, it was old-timey. It was like, Game of Thrones, but with DC characters. It's like taking a character, throwing them into old times, swords and kings and battles and stuff like that. But you also have superpowers and that. And I kind of dropped off on it because of time and, trying to keep up with everything. So I didn't see how it ended. But now it's back. And then they got Otto Schmidt doing the art, which him and Tom Taylor did a lot of the DC versus vampires. Is that what it was called? Or is the undead? I forget. So I really like Otto's art. I didn't read this because I don't know what happened before, and maybe I don't need to, but yeah, I don't know. And plus time, so I just didn't get to it. Absolute Green Arrow number 3. I'm curious about. I have no idea what's going on, and that's what I enjoy about this, and because this is how you do an absolute book. Don't just give us straight up. Here's Ollie. He's Green Arrow. He's fighting bad guys. Because right now we don't know who Green Arrow is. Is it Ollie? Ollie's supposedly dead, and then all these people are getting killed. Like people connected to Ollie. So it's just weird. And Black Canary, she's trying to find out what's going on. She's working for Hector Hammond, I believe. So it's yeah. And some of the deaths is like, holy crap, you're killing off that person, really? So, and we get a little more information here, but it's like, what does this mean? And yeah, so I'm digging that. There's Absolute Flash 17, Wonder Woman number 35. I was kind of confused, but I get why we have this. So this continues from the last issue where it was like in the future where Wonder Woman was fighting I don't even remember the other character's name, but we had like Steve Trevor and we had their daughter and everything like that. But it seems like things didn't go too well for Diana. And then what ends up happening, and without getting to too much specifics, Steve is like, he basically like tells what's her name or their kid like Wonder Woman's origin, and it's like we've seen this before. We've seen her growing up on the island, finding out her mom was Wonder Woman, and then Steve landing, and then the trials. It's just like I get when they do this every once in a while, just in case new readers don't know the story, but I don't know. It just, yeah, I don't know. Because sometimes they do this and they end up changing something or adding something or a new revelation or whatever, this or that. But I don't feel like they really changed anything. So I don't know. Batman, Superman, World's Finest. I didn't read this. I don't know if this was like in the middle of a story arc. I kind of assumed it was, so I didn't bother trying to check it out. Superman Unlimited number 15. So, we've had the return of young John Kent, and it's like, wait, how can that be when teenage-ish John Kent is there? He comes across him, and so older John puts on like the new suit, calls himself Tomorrow Man because he can't really tell John. It's like, yeah, I'm your future self. I just saved you and everything like that. So everyone's been trying to deal with like, wait, why is he back, and how come he doesn't remember certain things and everything? And like Damien was kind of skeptical, and then last issue we kind of got this big bombshell, like what's going on here. We got the aftermath, so it's just like it's kind of crazy. I don't know how we feel about it without giving away spoilers, but it was okay. Not quite what I'm not going to say anything more, but yeah, we have that. So check that out. New Titans 37, Nightwing 140. I haven't been loving the recent issues. So again, because of time, I was like, well, I didn't like the last couple, so maybe I'm just not going to check this one out either. I mean, I don't know. I could be totally wrong. And like I've said before, it kind of bothers me that I'm not reading a Nightwing comic because, I've always read some. Maybe I should go back. I don't know. We'll see. Deathstroke, the Terminator. I think, was this issue 3 or 4? Deathstroke's been going through a lot. Wintergreen has been killed, which I question that, but he has been killed. His all his money has been taken, and so basically he's stripped down to like nothing, and he's having to take on jobs, just random, assassination jobs. You see, he doesn't, and this is where it's like, okay, he doesn't care what someone wants to pay him. Okay, he's going to take the money, and it doesn't even matter if the person is good or bad, because I mean, you're an assassin, and even if you're killing someone bad, you're still killing someone. But someone apparently, I forget who, or we don't know, someone contacted him, and they're like, yeah, I might have some information as to who is responsible for all this. There's an informant, but they want some money, so then he has to take a job to so they can pay the informant, whatever, and stuff like that. But then as things move along, because the person responsible also hired or has Deadshot and Deathblow working for him, and then as things are going on, I don't know if it was meant to be super obvious, but I was like, I bet it's going to be so and so, and we do get the revelation, so we do find out here. I might potentially hate the last page. I'm hoping it's just, we get like a major cliffhanger, and I'm hoping it's just like a big mislead that maybe someone will step in and do something. Because if they do what they do, I'm going to be annoyed. So bookmark this. Well, don't bookmark this, but we'll see like next month what we find out. So next month I'll tell you what the cliffhanger page was here because I want you to read this. And then that was all I read, because we had Batwoman number 5. There's Lobo, End of Life. I need to get caught up on that because I was digging that. And then Catwoman, I forget what number that is. So that is it. Those are the comic books for the week. All right. My Adventures with Superman, Season 3, Episode 5, The Death of Superman. I was like, when I saw it, I was like, they're going there already? I was like, we barely had Superman. So this show, I gotta say, I'm really digging what they're doing here. It's so weird. I feel like, unfortunately, it kind of worries me a little bit. I feel like they're kind of fast tracking a lot of stuff, because we're only on season 3, and that's a surprise. I didn't even think we were going to get a season 2. I was so worried, skeptical, because you can never tell these days. But I feel like Superman is still young or early in his career. If I don't know how much time has passed since the first season and everything, but it just doesn't feel like there's been a whole lot of adventures. Maybe some time has changed. I feel like the fact that Lois knows his identity, I feel like that hasn't been that long of a thing. And it's like things are speeding up, because we had the whole stuff with Supergirl and her whole story, and that was great. And then they bring in Superboy. They bring Jonathan Kent already, but of course he's from the future, so you can kind of fast track things there. It's not really whatever, doing the sitcom thing where aging up the baby to a sassy teen actor. and if you look at that, I loved how they're jumbling things up. It's like we have Jonathan, and then we have an episode called The Death of Superman. We have Cyborg Superman, and we got Superboy, and this is Jonathan, but he's kind of like Connor because he's got like the full bodysuit and he's got the leather jacket. So I appreciate how they're just really mixing things up. There's a couple things that I don't like what they're doing, but it's been really interesting, and I'm digging it because you don't just want predictability. You don't want just regular straight up adaptation, because while that's cool and everything, and respectful to the content, you want them to kind of mix it up. So you're not really sure what's going to happen. Otherwise, you're just going to sit back and be like, oh, okay, this is going to be, fine. All right. So starting off, this is why Jonathan was sent from the future to, because of what was happening. So it starts with where the last episode picked up. Cyborg Superman's challenging Superman. He and Kara arrive in Metropolis, and he's like, blah, 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 fight like a hero and die like one. So then there's like lightning or something, and he appears behind them with like two of those robot things. I guess they're calling them drones. And Kara's like, Henshaw. And then Superman puts out his hand like to stop her because she's like about to charge. And he's like, Hank, we don't have to be enemies. We fought together. He's like, no, I was defending my world from an invasive species. You took that world from me, Superman, which is so stupid. You took my future. The two robot things kind of move forward. He's like, and now I'm going to take yours. And then for the intro, we don't get like the full-on opening sequence. We just see kind of like a tomb or like granite thing with like the S symbol, and there's like blood dripping on it. And it just says The Death of Superman. So it's like, wait, are they really going there? Are they really going to do this? It's like, again, it seems like it's too early, but okay. So then at the farm, like, Ma's crying. Jimmy's like comforting her. Lois is talking to John kind of off to the side. She's like, John, what did you mean you thought we had more time? And he's like, in the future, Cyborg Superman and his drones, they destroy the world. They destroy you and Dad. But that's why Dr. Luther sent me back. And she's like, wait. It's like, Dr. Luther? He's like, yes, to help me save you. And she's like, the Dr. Luther who turned Henshaw into Cyborg Superman? He's like, yes, he sent me back in time. And she gasped. She's like, John, why didn't you just tell me all this? He's like, it just all happened so fast. So then we see a flashback to like Lex, like slapping the device on John, like on his wrist or whatever, and shoving him back, and then the portal opens up. He's like, when I got here, it was also alive. And we're getting like flashbacks seeing this, like when he's like in the sky seeing Metropolis. He's like, my world is so different, Mom. And when I saw you and Dad, I'd never seen two people so happy before. He's like watching them at the Pound Cake Palace. He's like, and I just wanted to be a part of it, at least for a moment. And she's like, John, he's like, I won't let my future happen to your world, Mom. I'll fix it. And she's like, how are we? He's like, I'm going to save Dad, and you need to stay here where it's safe. And she's like, no, you come back here right now, Jonathan Kent. He takes off. She's like out the door. He's gone. And Lois like, John. And then she's like, Pa, I need the truck. So the drone things shoot at Kara. She like hits one, but gets hit from behind. Then, a couple like kick her, and she like gets smashed through a building. She goes like, flying through. Henshaw's like, I worked my whole life to build a future for myself. Punches Superman. I fought, punch. I trained, punch. And you just floated in and took it all away. He even he has like rockets that come out of his forearm to make him punch harder, I guess. And Superman, so he has enough. He like yells. He pushes him back like in the face, and he flies back. But then he like stops himself, and he like lost part of his face, like the left side, like around his eye and like his cheek. And Hank screams. He zips back, hits Superman, then flies up behind him, catches him by the head, and flies and like smashes his face through the building. And Hank smiles, but then he sees like his reflection in the cracked window. He's like, all that sacrifice, and look what I have to show for it. Smashes Superman's face against. Look at what I've become. And he like screams and groans, and he smashes Superman's face. I don't know. I thought he like dragged him down, but then he was up in the sky, so maybe he just like threw him down. Somehow he scrapes up against the side of the building, and Then Superman's like in a crater, so he like groans, climbs out. He tells some pedestrians, he's like, run, get to safety. Hank's like up in the sky, he's laughing. And which is just like, he has totally snapped. It's like, he wanted to be a hero, and then like suddenly he's just like insane. So he's like, look how much he cares. And he lifts the planet up from the Daily Planet, like tears it off. He's like, look at how much you matter to him. And he throws it down. And of course, there's a kid running in the street alone. He falls in the middle of the street, right in line with the planet. Superman stops it on the ground. He's like, like kind of kneeling or like squatting, holding the planet up. And then Cyborg Superman, he's on top. He's like punching down on the planet. He's like, is the weight of our world too much for you, hero? He punches like 6 times, and the kid's just lying there, like looking up the planet that's like getting closer to like smashing him. And Superman's just like, trying to hold it up. Then a blue and a red streak zips him away. It's John. And he flies and he delivers a kick to Hank, sends him flying back. Then he helps Superman put the planet back up. And Superman's like, John, you have to get back to your mother, to safety. He's like, no, Dad. He's like, get to the farm. And he's like, Dad, he's going to kill you. I came back to stop him from killing you, from killing everyone. And Superman's like, so in your future, I wasn't able to stop him? And John's like, no one was able to stop him. And we see like Metropolis in future, red skies, smoke, rise from destruction. Lois is like holding him as a baby. Although, is she holding him as a baby? Let me pause on that, because that's who you assume, right? He's like, all we could do was watch him. And Superman's like, John, I'm so sorry. And John's like, this is my fight, Dad. If you stay here, he's like, I know, but I can't leave you here alone. And John's like, but Dad, and he like grunts. Hank punches John. He goes flying into the street and like groans. And then Hank, he's so annoying. He's such a jerk. He's like, Dad? He's like, you aliens are breeding? So he flies up, punches John in the gut. He like groans, and the impact causes kind of like ripples along the concrete, just like, not like whatever, it just like cracks or whatever. He's like, I will never have a family. Tosses John into Superman, kicks John, and he like goes flying. But you get one? Superman starts to get up, but Hank slams his face into the concrete. Then he does it again. Then he lifts him up by the head. I couldn't wait to kill you in front of the world, but now I get to kill you in front of your son, too. He sends like a zap along his arm, like holding Superman's head, and then he like screams. Kara returns, get away from them. She decks him in the face. He goes like flying down, smashes into the street, and she's like, Jonathan, Kal-El, are you all right? And Superman's like, I'm fine, Kara, but... And John's like, you both have to get out of here. It's not safe, especially you, Aunt Kara. Cyborg Superman screams, stomps his foot down. And Superman's like, it doesn't have to be this way, Hank. You're better than this. Hank's like, you're right. I'm better than you. He starts like floating up. This isn't your world, Superman. It belongs to me. Here, let me show you. So then somehow remote control, he causes a plane engine to like blow. A subway train like flies past the station without stopping. A helicopter just randomly starts to fall. And Superman's like, Hank, no. And John's like, I'll get that plane. And Kara's like, we will protect the city. You can deal with him. So the drone, there's a bunch of like things. I thought they were like drone parts, but they're not. They start floating up to Hank. And he's like, you'll never really see what this body of mine can do. And he basically now he has like 7 blasters, little mini cannons, like to shoot Superman, like just floating around him. So Superman flies, and then he like blasts him with his heat visions. And Hank's like, I may be a freak, but I'm faster than you. So rockets like form in his legs. I'm stronger than you. He like punches, throws, flies up along like with him. So as he's like flying back, he's flying next to him. As Superman's like flying from being hit. Hank's like flying next to him. He's like, I'm better than you. And then double-handed blast, huge explosion in the sky. Jimmy's driving Lois, and they see the explosion. And it almost looks like the Death Star blowing up. So then Superman crashes into a park. Hank with his like 2 drones. He's like, do you need these people to like you that badly? You aren't even the same species. Pathetic. So he sends a blast by some people. Superman's like, they didn't do anything, Hank. They don't deserve this. A drone like knees him in the face, and 2 others like grab him. And Hank's like, no one gets what they deserve, Superman. So now there's like 4 more behind him, but you'll get what you have coming. So his chest glows, it's green. Superman starts like getting like green veins and screams. And Hank's like, They're going to wish they'd loved me when they had the chance. More screams. At LexCorp, Slade helps Lex into his office. He's like, not just a blip. Now is it? And Lex like scoffs. He's like, I suppose you think we're even now? And Slade's like, we're getting there. So Boss's truck flies through the lobby, I guess. Lois jumps out. She's somehow driving now. I know Jimmy was driving before. And she's like, slugs Lex in the face. Slade moves aside instead of like catching him. And he just like falls on the ground. He's like, now we're even. So Lois grabs Lex by the shirt. It's like, you have to shut Hank down. And Lex is like, no. And she's like, what? What is wrong with you? And she like cocks her fist back like she's going to give him another slug. And Lex is like, you think you get to do whatever you want? So Jimmy like pulls her off of Lex. He's like, twice now you've assaulted me because Superman is always protecting you. But who protects the rest of us? We have to live in fear of your alien boyfriend. There's like a big thud outside. Lois like, do you feel safer now? It's like, what do you think will happen once Hank is done with Superman, huh? Who do you think he'll go after next? There's more thudding in the distance. So Superman gets thrown or knocked into another building. There's green light. Superman grunts. Hank grabs his face and like lifts him. Time for the grand finale. Because remember what the episode's called. Superman's face starts like turning green, and then he starts to get like crystallizing, green kryptonite crystals forming on him. Hank smiles, punches him in the guts with like rockets on his arm, then spins him and like tosses him again, smashes like into another building. Hank floats over to him. Superman lies in like some wreckage. There's crystals all over his body now. And he's like, this isn't fun anymore. So Superman tries getting up, and Hank stomps his foot down. It's time to die, Superman. He raises his hand. It splits a little, and it's like glowing, it's going green. Then all the drones fall. Hank's like head gets like zapped a little, and he like grabs and screams, and he turns. He's like, "Are you trying to control me again, Lex?" So John brings the plane safely down in like the park. Crowd cheers, and people, passengers, and they're cheering. He like waves. He sees a green glowing Hank fly over, and he looks concerned. Lex is like typing on like the keyboard on his desk computer. 3 more barriers, and I'll have Henshaw. And then there's a thud. The glass from all the windows shatters. Hank's like out there. He's like, Luther, you weasel. So Lex grabs Lois and like holds her in front of him like as a shield. Then Hank's like, Lois. And she's like, Hank, please. And he blinks, and then his eyes turn red. He's like, no. He raises his hand, and then someone flies in and hits him like on the back of the head, knocking him down. Hank looks outside, and there's like I around. I was like, who the heck hit him? Because you don't see anything. But he looks outside. A metal pipe comes flying and it hits him again. So the first thing was someone threw a pipe at him. He gets his feet. He's like scanning. He's like, huh. He sees like a construction site, and Superboy's floating with a metal pipe in his hand. And Hank's like, keeping away from the kryptonite, huh? He like chuckles. Clever little vermin. So he flies at John. John gets ready to swing, but then Hank grabs him, slams him down. John's on the ground, and Hank raises his foot like to stop, but not clever enough. John rolls out of the way. He gets his feet, blasts him with heat vision, but Hank somehow knocks the beams away. It's like, how do you even do that? He punches him like 3 times in the face. Then John he's starting to get some green veins, but not a lot, which makes sense if you know. Hank holds his hand up, he's glowing with energy, aims it at John, and then Kara flies up and shoves him. He flies back, twirling, and slams into a building. Kara tries, sitting John up, and his face veins go away. She's like, Jonathan Kent, you cannot defeat Hank Henshaw on your own. And she still has like veins on her face. We need a plan. And John's like, I can do this on my own, Kara. I have to do this on my own. He pushes his emblem, and then like a suit starts like forming on top of his suit. It's like armor. He's like, look, it's experimental kryptonite shielding. It's just a prototype. But with this, I can take him. But his face is still like exposed. So it's just, what's the point? And she's like, kryptonite resistance is not enough. He is still too strong. And John's like, just stay here out of range. And she's like, no. She grabs his arm before he can fly. She's like, why do you hate me, Jonathan Kent? What have I done in the future that is so bad that you will not meet my eyes, will not even stand beside me in battle? And he's like, oh, Kara, no, you were the one who raised me. So then we get a flashback. He's like, when the world ended, you were my teacher, my best friend. And we see Kara was the one holding him as an infant. You taught me how to use my powers, how to fight, how to be brave. You showed me that the world could be kind, and then you died. And because there's like footage or flashback memories of them training together and stuff like that. And she's like, I did all that. He's like, you did, and I can't lose you again. And that's the truth, Aunt Kara. She's like, Jonathan, Kal-El and Lois Lane have a whole beautiful world that loves them. Their whole beautiful world to protect. It is not my world, but you are my family. Let me protect you. And he's like, okay, together. So Hank's on his knees, he groans, he floats out of the building that he was smashed into. He's like, where are they? He's like scanning. He sees Superman writhing in pain. Let's get back on mission. Flies down, stomps on his face and slams down with his fist. Hank gets like knocked back by two blurs, and we see John and Kara flying, sharing the anti-kryptonite suit. So it's like they split it or something like that. He's like, come to die for dear old dad? He's like, can't you wait your turn? He raises like both hands to blast and slices through the airs with like green blast. Kara swoops past him, and now goes by him. He's missing his right arm. And he gets hit on the other side. Now he's missing his left arm. So he gets hit like 3 more times. They're like taking turns, and like 5 more hits. He groans. That he's like, I need more. There's even a cord hanging out of his eye. A couple drones are like pulled, to him, and then he grabs their arms, and it's somehow it changes. So he attaches the arm. It changes to like a giant claw arms. Like, how is it even? It's just like morphs somehow. He adjusts his eye, and Kara like swoops towards him. He wonders. He's like, why is the kryptonite not affecting her? Then he scans, of course, and he sees the armor. He's like, let's take care of that. So his laser vision slices off Kara. She hits the ground. She like bounces. John calls out her name, and then his armor gets blasted off. It's like so easily, like just it's gone now. So Kara's like groaning now. He's like, that's right. You love her. You think you're family, but we all die alone. He has his hand raised to blast. John's like, Kara. And he gets up. He's like, no. He flies at Hank, but he easily catches John by the face. Here, I'll show you. Superman suddenly wakes up, even though he's covered with green crystal. He grunts and sits up. He hears Hank laughing, holding John up by the face. You're holding up much better than your old man, but how much more can you take? And Superman's like, no. He gets up, but he falls flat on his face. He grunts. He starts crackling with energy, but then he falls flat again. And Hank's like, let's wrap this up. So his other arm splits horizontally. So he's probably going to shoot some blast out of there. John's arm is just hanging limp. Then we see something. At first I was like, is this Superman's heart? Because it's almost like some machinery thing. There's these things around it. And it's covered with crystals. But it's is it trying to pump past it? And then boom, Superman's eyes are blue with energy. So it's is he turning into Superman, lightning, whatever Superman? Because there's he floats up, there's lightning, the crystals shed off him, he zips like lightning, and he swings his fist and shatters Hank's left arm. And the one holding John. John rolls along the ground, and Superman's like, I won't let you hurt my family. I won't let you destroy our world. He punches. Hank's other arm is shattered, and he's there's 2 more punches, and Hank's right arm starts reforming somehow. And Hank's like, you stole my future. He punches, but Superman catches it, and then the green passes. Green from Hank's arm starts going over Superman's arm. The crystals start forming on it. But it's starting to overtake him again. And Superman's like, the future belongs to everyone. So then it's at this point, it's wait, was it Hank's heart? Because Superman reaches for his kryptonite heart, yanks it out. He's like, no, I'm taking it back. And then so he's holding a piece of kryptonite in his hand, shatters it. And then the blue energy fades away. Superman falls to his knees to catch his breath. Hank is bent over in pain. And Superman, he still has green on him, and Hank's like, no, if this is what it costs, he's wheezing, if I go down, all of you go with me. So his chest starts flashing red, and John arrives to help Superman up, and Hank's like, what? Why doesn't the kryptonite hurt him like it hurts you? And Superman laughs like, his mother's from Earth. And Hank's like, he's human? And he coughs. All his like black liquid like spills out of his mouth. He's like, impossible. He's too old to be yours. And then I don't know why John feels a need to explain, to justify this or whatever. Just leave him like wondering. He's like, I came here from the future to stop you. And Hank's like, no, you can't. But I was supposed to be the future, but they chose you. Aliens. They made peace with you, fell in love with you. You're the future now. And he starts like shutting down, and Superman's like, Hank. And, because we see it on his chest, there's like a timer, like, it's just red lights like going around a circle, like boop, 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 boop. And there's like one more click away before he blew up, but it stops. And John's like, Dad, we did it. Kara climbs out from under her rubble. John zips over to her. Aunt Kara. He like hugs her. She smiles. And then a watch beeps. It's like John's. And he's like, no. And at first I thought like Jimmy's calling him. It's like, what does he want now? And Kara's like, are you too injured to hug Jonathan Kent? Did I hurt you? He's like, no, he like sighs. He's like, this thing's running out of power. It's going to take me back, but I'm not ready. And Kara's like, it will be fine, Jonathan Kent. Go to the future. I cannot wait to meet you there. And he like hugs her back. And then later he's like, Mom, Dad, I have to go. I just wish we had more time. Superman's like, me too, son. He gives him a hug. He's like, you saved my life. Thank you, John. And he like hugs back, tears in his eyes. Lois is like, am I allowed to be proud of you? And she like leaps into hugging him. She's like, too late. I'm so proud of you. And he's like, thanks, Mom. I love you both so much. And she's like, wait, John, how do you know you can go back? How do you know that things will be better this time? And John's like, because we'll all be there. And he starts getting like energy around him together. And then he's gone. Lois' eyes are glossy as she looks at Superman. And we see like the busted Superman statue next to Supergirl. Damaged building. And Superman's like walking. He's kind of limping. He's walking with Lois's help. He's like groans. He's like, Lois, I don't have my glasses. How bad is the truck? And she's like, you don't need your glasses. And she like chuckles. She's like, and it's pretty bad. And he's like, aw, Pa's going to be so disappointed. Lois laughs. She's like, no, he won't. We saved the city. And she gives him a kiss. And we saved Superman. And then he's like, Lois, my powers, something happened during the fight. I pulled too much out of them. I can't feel them anymore. They're gone. I can't protect us. I can't be Superman for you anymore. And then she gasps. And then she's like, maybe we didn't save Superman, but we saved you, Clark. She hugs him. And we saved the future, didn't we? And it starts raining. And then the future. So it looks like the city is intact. But it's like, wait, are those eradicators floating? Or are those robots? Slade's like dragging Superboy like tied up to Lex. He's like, we captured one of the renegades, High Commander. And you hear Jonathan Lane. And he's like wrapped in like, I don't know if it's kryptonite ropes, like green. He's like, many regards to your mother. And he turns around. So Lex, he's got like some crystal things on his head. And he's wearing like some sort of tech suit. I hear you're trying to travel back to the past. That really doesn't work for me. Where would you even get an idea like that? And he chuckles. And that's the end. So it's like Jonathan, he saved his parents, but it's a sucky future. And I don't know if we're going to see any more of Jonathan or not, because, yeah. So there you go. So even though it's called The Death of Superman, he didn't die, although he lost his power. So that was kind of the end of Superman. So again, it's a nice different take. And, instead of doing the whole funeral for a friend stuff or whatever, we don't need to do all that. So I enjoyed that. All right. And now we're going to talk about X-Men 97. And what I decided, we'll do 2 episodes this week. So now we'll be, relatively caught up. Actually, no, we're still going to be a week behind because I realize that the next episode. So we're going to cover episode 3 and 4. And I think I mentioned this last week because this is a part 1 and part 2. So this is Rise. So season 2, episode 3, Rise of Apocalypse, part 1. We get, it starts off with the opening right away. It's a regular X-Men opening, and it's interesting. I don't know if I noticed it before, but we have Magneto's like in the lead, which is weird. It's like, okay. So then the X-Men who were in the future are back in the school. Wolverine's like, so much for home sweet home, since it's all damaged. Forge says that he and Bishop had a plan, collect them all and meet here at this exact point in time, but they're not back, and the signals in their time band are dead. So Cyclops says that he's like, well, then we go after them. Forge says that they have no way to pinpoint where they are, and the longer they're gone, the more chances there are for the entire time stream to be rewritten. Storm says that Mother Ascani sent them to stop the rise of Apocalypse from ever coming to pass. So if they can't reach them, then they must hope that they succeed. So then we see the city in the past, and it's like, it looks like this big golden city. There's a big wall. There's a strange dome over it, and it says it's 3000 BCE. So it's like this pretty high tech, whatever. We see En Saba Nur. He stands like on a cliffside, staring at the city. Magneto comes behind him. It comes as a heavy burden to be the first of your kind. En Saba Nur says, I may have abilities, but they do not change the fact that people like me are only privileged to dream of survival. Magneto's like, that is a story told by oppressors who need for you to fear them, when in truth it is they who fear you and what you could become. Nur, they keep calling him Nur, which sounds weird. I've never called him Nur. It's always been En Saba Nur or Apocalypse, but whatever. So Nur is like, and what is that? And Magneto's like, with my guidance, a god among insects. And Nur's like, you speak of powers to a man born a slave, a conquest of a cruel pharaoh from a foreign land. And Magneto's like, yes, but it is only through struggle that one must come to understand the true value of power. So, I'm debating if I should go so in depth, with a recap of everything. I don't know, especially since we're doing 2 episodes. So inside the dome, there's like all this high-tech equipment. So this one woman, I think her name is Chandra, whatever. She's talking to the Pharaoh, and he says the Storm Riders are approaching the city, led by the abomination they call En Saba Nur. So the Pharaoh, when he hears the name, he says he supposes it's only a matter of time. So he calls General Logos, his dude, to redirect the forces at the front wall, and he says that Nur cannot live to challenge him for the temple of power that he seeks. So outside, there's like robot guards with like electro whips. They're forcing the workers to erect like these statues of the pharaoh or whatever. So Logos come in the courtyard. He's on this humongous elephant, and he says that to halt all work and prepare for battle. And Saba Nur is riding with his army of sandstormers. And they'll try to sway you with their cries of freedom, but remember who holds your chains. Who your one true ruler, your pharaoh, Rama Tut. Which is interesting that we got Rama Tut here. I actually don't remember. I don't know if Rama Tut was back with En Saba Nur's time. Maybe I feel like it's no. So then we see there's some other dude with En Saba Nur. Says that he was just a broken child when he found him in the desert. Now look at him. So his name is Baal, Baal. So he's the one that like saved En Saba Nur. He's not just a survivor, but he's a leader. So Nur says that soon their desert winds will sing the song of their people's freedoms. Magneto's like standing on a cliffside, like looking at the city, and he's like, quite the view, isn't it, Charles? But Charles, like in his astral form here. He says that they're trapped 5,000 years before their time. He's like, and you risk our fates on a mutant who cannot be trusted? And Magneto's like, your student said the same of me when you left me your school. He's like, the Pharaoh's technology is clearly from the future, perhaps even from a time beyond ours. It could help us return home if we trust En Saba Nur. And then Charles like, his name is Apocalypse, bringer of chaos, lord of destruction, the X-Men's most diabolical foe, an immortal madman known for crushing his enemies, not capturing them. And Magneto's like, not in this era, not today. Here he is still the first mutant. And he's like, Magnus, Nur does not know who we really are or where we came from. And Magneto's like, yet he trusts me. Can you not do the same after everything we've been through? So Nur tells his people that, they were born slaves. They'll kneel no longer. They will survive. They belong to the future. Future belongs to the strong. Survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. They keep chanting that. Magneto stares at Charles, and Nerve blows a horn. They charge. But then the field before the walls seems to have landmines or something, because there's like these explosion robots grab at them. They're like hiding under the sand. Nerve keeps riding. That his guy Ball gets taken down. He gets surrounded by robots, so he slashes at them. But then they pile on top of him, a ridiculously huge pile, like probably like 4 stories high of like robots on top of Ensabanur. So he's got to be like smashed, right? But his eye glows. The general dude just smiles and chuckles as the gates are closed. But the gates get knocked down, and when the dust settles, the general sees and Sabanur standing there. So it's like somehow he got out from under that pile of robots. So the general just tries to look bored. I suppose perseverance is the virtue of a slave. And so a bunch of robots crack their electro whips at him. But then he manages to catch them on his wrist. Maybe it's because he's got the big like metal gauntlet on his wrist, so it's not harming him. So he pulls a bunch down, smashes them against the statues. He starts fighting them. And then he's somehow able to throw one super far, and it smashes through like some scaffolding. So are they super light, or is he like super strong? You know, we know he's a mutant, but like, what exactly is his power? So he gets like, at first I thought he got shot in the head, and he like shrugs it off, but maybe it hit his like kind of neck, shoulder armor thing, whatever. So guards that are shooting at him from like on top of the elephant, because there's like a bunch of people up there. The elephant like charges, rears up. Ner grabs one of its giant tusks, and like as it's pushing him back, they keep like shooting, but they can't hit him. And then somehow he manages to stop the elephant charging, and then he starts twirling it in the air by the tusk. So it's like, how strong is he? It's like, do I not know anything about Apocalypse that he can do this? Or Ensabanur? So he like walks up to the fallen general, and Ball says this, seize his head. Ner raises his blade, and Magneto watches from the sky, but Ner hesitates and then just slams his foot down on the general's back, and he's like holding a rope. He's like, we take him alive. So Magneto says to Charles to send his team to recover the fallen androids, then leave Ner to him. He's like, I promise I will see our X-Men safely home, old friend. So Nightcrawler teleports parts of the Beast. Charles asks if he was seen, and Kurt says that, not a soul saw him. Beast has a bunch of parts connected to like this machine. Rogue enters with like the last coordinates or whatever, she says. So Hank turns it on. There's a power surge. Slams down like the busted android. He says they may as well be a cat pawing at a ball of yarn. Professor tells him that, like, basically just says, chill out. He's done his best. Hank says that he just doesn't have enough power. How can the Pharaoh's technology be so frightfully advanced, yet also incredibly primeval? Kurt says that maybe, mere mortals aren't meant to mess with the forces of time. But B says, praying to the gods might be their only option. So the power to create a stable temporal displacement field can only be described as cosmic. So Charles says that, Magneto believes that General Logos may be able to provide insight that they need to adapt the technology. Rogue says that, assuming Ensabanur doesn't kill him first, Kurt says that, their fate basically rests on the alliance between their oldest adversary and their most merciless one. So the Storm Riders return to the cave with the general tied up, and Ner says that Magneto, that, before he came into his life, these men only saw him as a monster, and with his counsel, they no longer fear him, they follow him. So he admits that every part of him so wants to crush this insect. Magneto says that only a coward feels mighty when stepping on ants. So Ner says that Baal would strongly disagree. Magneto asks, with the sentiment or with him. Ner says that he's never offered outsiders his trust, and Magneto says sparing Logos was the right decision. As mutants, they must resist their darkest impulses if they're ever to save humanity from itself. So then later the X-Men talk about how they're going to ask, Logos for information. Rogue says they're wasting their time. Just tells the professor just to pull information out of his head. But Charles says using his powers on him increases the risk of altering the past. And Kurt says that
Perhaps, they're already fate's puppets. B says that they just need to get out of this era as soon as possible because he fears, what would happen if anyone found out the truth. And then Justin Nur enters the room. So Charles congratulates someone today. Nur says victory belongs to all of them, around the table. He thinks about being alone for so long and wondering why, and in whose image was he made. He never dared to dream of meeting others like him. Magneto says dreams help them survive, perhaps more than blades and arrows. Then Baal comes in and interrupts. He says that he's never seen an enemy quake before a dream. He's never seen a dream lay siege onto a fortress such as the Pharaoh's capital. Nur tells him just to be gentle, and Baal says that they could have torn through every wall in that city, but he stopped after one out of fear of facing the Pharaoh. Magneto tells Baal that he does not yet understand his army enough to vanquish it. So how many of those same men would die at the hands of machines? Baal asks how many are fit to survive. Nur loudly is like, silence. He's like, both of you, we all share in Egypt's future. Baal's like, your new friends, their ambitions for you are so very small. When I freed you from the camp, I promised you the world. Nur's like, Magnus says I have a destiny. I can do more than just conquer the world. I can save it. Baal says that he has until tomorrow's moon to get the answers he seeks, because then he'll take the head of Logos, Nur's destiny or not. Later, Charles is not happy. He says Magneto, he's like, you told Nur we see a destiny for him? And Magneto sighs. He's like, I explained. And Charles like, this is what your interest has been in him all along? Not to help us find a way home, but to coerce him into embracing my dream of mutant-human harmony? And Magneto's like, well, what if a mutant... Basically, he's like, what if someone with Apocalypse power fought for his dream 5,000 years before he did? So he wouldn't necessarily be the first mutant, he'd be the first X-Man. So it'd be a chance to rewrite all the history in her favor. And Charles, he says that there's the risks of altering time on that scale without humanity's consent. But Magneto's like, please, humankind or mankind has long authored history. The result, countless volumes of trite barbarism, every new chapter scrolled in blood, each generation plagiarizing the prior. But it's like what you don't realize, you're changing by change. It's come on, man, we're talking butterfly effect here. You step on a butterfly and the world is overrun by dinosaurs or something in the future. So it's by doing all this, who's to say that Xavier's going to even exist, be born? Things can change with the slightest, if, but whatever. And then, Charles, because he says that Magneto's like, they could stop Genosha from happening. And Charles like, Genosha wasn't your fault. And Magneto's like, no, it was ours. He's like, I brought mutants there, helped make a nation. And he's like, my intention was to inspire, to be like you. He's like, but I am not. No one is. He's like, help me, Charles. You and your X-Men would return to a world far beyond our wildest dreams, one where your dreams have finally come true. And Charles like, for our sakes and the world's, I do hope it's possible for Nur's rage to be contained. So Nur has Logos hanging upside down. And, he's asking, he's like, again, what's the secrets of the Pharaoh's technology? Your life will be spared. But Logos just chuckles. He's like, oh, how you've grown. You're not the wailing great pup with crooked lips anymore. You're left by his mother to bake in the sand. You truly don't remember? You were so young and the years so painful. And Nur is just like, you will answer me. And Logos took me a moment, but I'd never forget the disfigured face of Ramatut's favorite slave. So Nur violently grabs him by the throat. He's like, you are. And he's like, your first master who put you in your pharaoh's chains. So Nur swings his sickle, chop off his head. But then Magneto, he's there. He stops him. He raises his hand and to stop the blade from connecting. Magneto's like, you are not your past and Sabanur. You are our future. So Charles is there too. And Nur's like, you want me to let this dog live? And Magneto's like, I do. And Nur groans. He's like, I leave him to you then. And Logos laughs. And Magneto's like, you laugh at our mercy? And he's like, you and your desert vermin can continue your rebellion all you want. The Pharaoh is on the precipice of a discovery that will make his current army look like playthings. And Charles is like, what? And so now like Logos is talking, it's like so it's weird. He's like, a lost temple of divine beings from the stars, blessed with the means to turn our mortal Pharaoh into a god himself. And telepathically, Charles is like, Magnus, this could be the power we need to get home. And then he's like, you will tell us about this temple. And he's like, I do not cower before the sandstormer's abominations. He's like, you expect me to fear you? And Charles is like, you leave me no choice. Do not resist me. I will know it all in good time. And then Charles Gass sees several like floating pyramids, and he's like, surrender your mind to me. He slams his fist against like a floating pyramid, starts like pulling out a block. Show me the location of this temple of the star gods. He reaches into darkness, and there's like some blue light. Then he gets pulled into the tiny opening. He yells, and then he's like on a strange landscape. There's like busted planet or moon or something in the sky. The mountain, there's a face in there. He had gas, and he like falls over. He gets like pulled into the ground, like kind of quicksand. Then he's in a giant hourglass. More yelling. A voice speaks. I am the tide that carries all to the rocks of the eternal shore. Crash against them and be broken. So Charles is like in waves. He's being like washed ashore somewhere. There's a big temple in the background. Everything, everywhere finds their way here. The end. And Charles is like, I can sense you, whoever you are. Reveal yourself. In time, all will see. He is where the end begins. So Charles like yells some more, and he collapses, and Magneto catches him. He's like, it's me, Charles. It's me.
So then Charles tells Beast, Rogue, and Nightcrawler that, he searched Logos' mind. He only knew like pieces of the location. He's like, I'm not sure we wish to know it either. He says that like a presence called out to him as like, big and intrusive or whatever, offensive. And he's like, it was like unlike anything I've ever encountered. It will not tolerate us finding this place. And Magneto's like, do not worry, old friend. Whatever forces await, we shall face it together. So they go into the other room. Nur has his back turned. Baal is holding up like an android arm, and the general is like on his hands and knees. He says that their treasure hunt is over, as is your treachery. So the other guard, like sandstormers, they pop out of the shadows, and like above, they're like surrounded place. They got like bow and arrows on them. Nur is holding a busted excommunicator like thing. He's like, Magnus, what is the meaning of this? And Baal's like, lift the wool from your eyes, Nur. This so-called prophet has lied to you. He hides their true intent. They hoard the very machines we seek to destroy. Nur's like, you are using them to build something? A weapon for yourself? And Magneto's like, Nur, give me a chance to explain. You have deceived me. And then Magneto's like, I'm sorry, Nur. But then Nur's like, lies are weapons of the weak. And Magneto's like, Nur, please, no. And then whoosh, chops off Logos' head. And like some of the blood splatters on Magneto's face. He was not fit to survive. And then he's like, destroy them. So the Sandstormers draw their sword. Then one of the Sandstormers, which is Bishop in disguise, he pulls out a rifle, like a big rifle, starts like shooting, tosses up like a stun grenade for the ones on top. Beast's like, it seems we are not alone. Kurt teleports, starts knocking the archers down from their spots. Baal moves, attack Bishop, but he like blasts him in the chest, and then like he gets slammed against the wall. Nur's like, Baal, no! He like growls, yells, gets a little bigger, and he attacks. Logos' eyes like pulsing in like his severed head, and the Pharaoh's like, En Sabanur. The Pharaoh must have implanted something like that, because then somehow he's like, you thought you could hide, but I found you. So somehow he's like tracking, I don't know. So Bishop's like dodging Nur's attacks. He says, it's time to deplete the reserves. So he blasts Nur. He flies through several like columns. Rogue finally says, well, I'll be Bishop. And he says, gratitude later. We've got to get you back home now before he comes to. So he tosses them all like time bracelets. Charles asks, what about the others? Have they returned their time? And Bishop's like, long story, but Forge is on top of it. The Pharaoh's like, in his palace or whatever, or his place, let us see who is more fit to survive, the slave or the conqueror. So the dome like revolves like this big sphere, energy builds and like shoots up. Charles, he says to Magneto that he fears the time to redeem Nur has passed. He's like, save it for the history books. He's like, time to get the hell out of this place. He's like, we need you back in the 1990s. So the energy blast in the sky turns, head towards their like mountain base. Nur's like, it climbs out of rubble. He's like, our fight is not done. And then, he like yells, but then the beam hits the mountain and they're all dead. And the Pharaoh laughs maniacally. To be continued. So that was the end of episode 3. They're dead. They're dead in the past. But then, season 2, episode 4, Rise of Apocalypse Part 2. So in the dust of the explosion, Nur holds Baal's body. And he's like gritting his teeth and breathing heavy. And a little ways away, the X-Men are fine. They're totally fine. Everyone else is dead. Apocalypse survived because he's Apocalypse and Nur. But then Magneto made like a magnetic force field. He was protecting himself, the Professor, Bishop, Rogue, Beast, and Nightcrawler. And he's like, I could only save us. Bishop, he doesn't care. He's like, tick-tock, y'all. Magneto tells him to stay his hand. Nurse sets the ball down and picks up his blade. Bishop's like, how about now? And Charles tries reading his mind. He's like, there's too much rage. And he's like, Nur, there has been enough death this day. Let us explain, please. And Nur's like, Magnus, you are a prophet of lies. Charles like, he has told you the truth, just not all of it. We are lost travelers, but we are not from here. Just give me a chance to explain when we come from. And he's like, you survived the Pharaoh's attack. Such strength merits a chance to say your piece. But know this, if your truth falters, my blade will not. So Bishop asks how he got stuck playing chaperone to a bunch of martyrs who, tried using the worst mutant ever to rewrite the whole damn timeline. And Nightcrawler's like, to be clear, not all present here were on board with Magneto's plan. And Magneto's like, a point made often and to no end. So Nightcrawler's basically like, yeah, Magneto's plan sucked, but we didn't all agree with it. So then he's like, tell me, Bishop, the dire situation you've outlined us for us in the 90s, would my plan not rectify matters? You yourself have traveled back in time and done similar to save your own future. This is me doing the same. So he's got a point there. They're basically, if we look at it, it's like, you can't go back in time and rewrite everything. But that's exactly what Bishop did. And that's what Cable is basically doing. Sort of, even though he's from that time, but he lived in the future and he went back in time to change things. So Kurt says that his intentions may be noble, but he's tampering with variables that none of them can fully understand. And Bishop's time ban gives them a way to return home, so they should just take it. Rogue says that this isn't just about them anymore. It has the potential to be about everyone still to come and everyone that they've lost. So Kurt's like, oh, you think of Remy and of undoing his fate. And Rogue is like, I'm as skeptical as any of y'all, but if your plan works, Eric, Nur could pave the way to a future where everyone in Genosha survived. And he's like, thank you. B says, democracy is a few thousand years away, but perhaps they should vote. So he's like, who would like to return to our time? Bishop's wristing glows, it flies off his wrist, and then to Magneto's hand, it just crumbles, and he breaks it. Kurt yells, mein Gott! Like, what have you done? Magneto's like, I voted. Bishop calls him madman, says that he just stranded him. And Magneto says that, he's like, you're so dramatic. Charles suspects that the temple, the lost temple of Pharaoh seeks, also contains power to repair their time bands. So it'll get them home once they help set Nur on a proper path. So Charles talks to Nur. He's kind of surprised from the future. And he's like, 5,000 years from now, a time when mutants are not a rarity like you, but a people, thousands strong across the entire world. The symbol you hold, it belongs to our team, the X-Men. But it's like, it's a little arrogant. It's like, yeah, it's based off of me. It'd be like if I gave everyone like, okay, you are the G-Men and your symbol, whatever. So he's like, it's a promise of future where young mutants work together, learning to use their powers to build a better world. Mutants such as himself. And Nur's like, my quest to free Egypt has failed. My people killed. There is no better world. No grand future to dream of beyond my own survival. And Charles is like, perhaps we can help rebuild the world that the Pharaoh has taken from you. General Logos spoke of a lost temple of great cosmic power I now sense may be calling to you. And Nur's like, what would you have me do?
So he lies down. Xavier tells him, psychic probe can be, can cause some discomfort. Nurse says, like, pain calms me. So Charles sees Nur as an infant, sees his mom when she leaves him, and then he's like older in shackles. He's being sold, and he's like working. And he's sleeping alone in like the cold rain. Other slaves are cuddled together, but they don't want anything to do with him. And then older, he's pulling up a statue up, and then a voice, the closed caption called Ensign, calls from the stars. Esan, whatever his name is. I mean, you kind of know what the story is, and you get a glimpse later. It's a friggin' celestial, and I am not an expert on celestials. I am not going to pretend to do that. So, doing a quick whatever search, Esan is apparently, according to the Google, is Esan the Searcher, a colossal cosmic entity and member of the Celestials in the Marvel Universe. Okay, so he's ancient, armor-clad extraterrestrial who conducts genetic experiments, civilizations across Earth. So maybe, is this the one that was in Eternals? Maybe, whatever, I don't feel like looking this up. So, yeah, we have that. Because they have different helmets. Whatever. So, let's, so Eason calls from the stars. He's like, come be eternal. And Charles has to, like, cut the connection. And then he comments on the constellation, because the constellations are kind of like the armor and Eason, whatever his name is. So Charles says that, in the mind of Ramatut, the constellation, he saw it in Logos's mind, but larger, directly above the temple's hidden location. And Nur's like, the gardener's gaze in the southwestern sky. It's like, I can follow the stars across the desert to bring us there. And then smug Magneto's like I said, Nur's our path home. To a new and brighter future we will build together. Bishop kind of frowns a little bit. Kurt and Rogue just kind of look at each other like, So they start off across the desert. Somehow they get like all these like camels and stuff. I don't know where they got the money for it or whatever, because their whole base was destroyed. Then like the sky changes, like the sand like rises. There's a giant statue thing or whatever. It can be seen like on top of a mountain. Magneto suggested they camp the night rather than continue. And he's like, who knows what dangers await in that cursed temple. So it's like I don't know how they found it right away. Rogue's like in a daze staring at the fire. Nur's like, oh, you can't sleep? He's like, I never have been able to. She says it's just hard to believe that they might be able to finally punch their ticket home. And he says that, she doesn't seem glad, what's waiting for her there. And she says it's more about what's not waiting for her there. Someone she lost, someone special. And she's asked if he's ever been in love. And he says that his mother abandoned him in the desert as an infant. Ever since everyone he has ever known, he's lost. Love is pain, a weakness that he can't afford. And she says it's the only thing that makes life, worth living. There's a rub. And she says that she does hope that he gets to experience it one day, for all their sakes. And she goes and lies down in a tent. A head device thing is like helmet is put on the Pharaoh's head. And I don't know what to say. He's like, Charles. Hello, Charles. Wakey, wakey. He's like, do you want to know the secrets of the temple? And Charles like wakes and sits up with a gasp. He's like, I can tell you. And then there's this other voice. Sounds like one's like, it'll be exciting. So it's probably the Pharaoh. Like there's another like that's listed as like assertive voice, whatever. And then says, you peddle dangerous history. So Charles is like, who or what are you? Mischievous voice is like, oh, and it's like chuckling. He's going to be surprised. Assertive voice says, surprise is irrelevant. And then Pharaoh's like, answer me. And then he like falls, like reality shifts. He's going through like a doorway. Then Ramatut's like, Charles Francis Xavier, founder of the X-Men. And he's like really big, sitting like on a throne. He lifts the helmet off in his vision. Patron saint of peace. And then Charles like, Ramatut, I presume. And Rama's like, I have so many names. Nathaniel, Victor, Kang. Finding oneself can get addicting. Who am I? Who was I? Where do I and me begin? The mischievous voice is like, watch, he's not going to get it. Assertive voice is like, give him a chance. Charles like, those other voices are you? And Ramatut's like, echoes of who I was and who I could be. This place blurs many lines. It is an axis around which the past, present, and future all dance.
Charles is like, and yet you chose to come to end Saba Nur's time and enslave his people? Why? Unless you believe he could be stopped. Rama's like, there is a chance if I were able to acquire the celestial power inside the temple. Charles is like, and no doubt ensure your conquest across time and this time and any other you chose. And he's like, A plus, Charles. Charles is like, Magnus believes Nur can be turned, and I will not betray Magnus. Ramata's like, then you shall see for yourself. You cannot stop him. You never stop him. Then there's like more smoke, and Charles like yells and wakes up. Nur stands, and he's staring up at the temple. As they approach, B says that there's trace levels of gamma particles. So using the data in half-life, he'd say that the rock was melted well over 10 millennia ago. Then we see like the celestial inside. Nur mentions it's the gardener's gaze, whatever. And it's the same constellation that led them there, because it's like on the helmet, whatever. B says he's picking up energy signatures of a celestial origin. Ha, ha, ha. So he's encountered something similar before. It could be the kind of power they need. He's just not sure which way because energy is shorting out his scanner. So Magneto says they have to split up to find a source before the Pharaoh's reinforcement arrive. Nurse says that he prefers the company of Charles because he's mad at Magneto. Bishop says that he's with the professor. So Beast, Magneto, Rogue, and Kurt, they walk through a hall. Rogue says that she's getting weird sense of deja vu. They find this computer bank. Hank waves his hand over it and it lights up. And there's like these glyphs. He's like, it's not deja vu, Rogue. We've been here before. Not in this time, but in ours. This is no temple, but the mighty spacecraft ship designed by creatures from across the stars. And it's like, greetings, traveler. He's like, oh dear. And Kurt's like, what's wrong? In our time, this vessel was a weapon of apocalypse. So Nur, Charles, and Bishop reach like the center chamber. Bishop comments it sort of seems like he knows where he's going. Nur says it almost feels like he does, as if he's drawn by greater forces. Charles sees like some glyphs on the walls. There's clearly Nur with his hands up, Charles in his chair. Magneto's like he's on one side, Magneto's on the other side. And we can see like Rogue, Kurt, because there's like a tail beast, so you can see his hair. And what must be Bishop, they're like standing around. So Nur says that he doesn't understand. Charles telepathically calls Magneto, says that he needs to get here now. Nur's like, this is me and you. So Essen, whatever, says, come be eternal. Charles like, Nur knows everything. And Nur's like, my future, it's all here. You knew what I was to become, and you tried to take it away from me? And so he's mad again. And Charles like, please, let me explain. With more lies? This is why you came to me, not to help me, but to stop me. And Charles like, from becoming a monster you do not wish to be. Nur's like, from becoming who I was meant to be. Which is, okay, so you're just okay with being a monster? Bishop pulls out his rifle, tells him not to take another step. Nur charges, Bishop fires, but somehow misses. Nur hits him, kicks him off the walkway, and he falls pretty far. It's like maybe a couple stories down. Charles like tries talking to him. Nur, this is not you. And he's like, you tried your best, Professor, to mold me into your X-Man. He grabs him, lifts him by the throat. But you said my destiny is my choice, and I have made it. So he drops him on a walkway and laughs. He walks up this ramp because I always have been the fittest to survive. So now basically Nur's lost it. He's like flipped over to the other side. And then sand or stone starts like the blow forms like Apocalypse's head with like the mouth opening to make like a doorway. Nur, please resist whatever dark force called you here. Mutants share a destiny to help the world move beyond our darkest fears. And Nur's like, that is your destiny. Mine is to evolve, so I will never be powerless again. So then there's like sort of like this arrowhead-shaped glowing crystal thing inside the head. Rogue's like, heard that one before. Slam! She punches him hard. Kurt and Magneto, they also arrive. Somehow Bishop's got back up from down below. Charles is like, we were so wrong, Magnus. And Magneto's like, still, he is not yet the unbeatable foe of our time. Nur recovers from Rogue's punch. He charges at the X-Men. Bishop charges up to blast, but Nur just like swats him away. Magneto turns on his powers, but even though Nur has like metal around his neck and wrists, I guess they're not magnetic, maybe? It's possible. He headbutts Magneto, even though he's wearing his helmet, and he falls to his knee. Nur just like tosses him aside. Charles says that he must not enter the shrine, and not sure how he knows. Kurt teleports onto his back and then up to like a higher platform. Nerd grabs him by the wrist and squeezes, so Kurt like yells out. Then he slams Kurt down and then he throws him against the wall. Rogue attacks him, but he like grabs her and gives her like a gut punch. Then he like kicks her. He does like a couple jumps and he's like back on top next to the Apocalypse head. He touches the energy crystal thing. I shall ascend. There's like an energy blast. Smoke clears, and in essence, like all creation is forged through destruction. It's like the end bringing forth the beginning returning to the end. You will be the end of things, and Sabanur. Armies will dream of your demise, curse you, fear you, but all creation must crash against eternal shore in order to thrive and grow. If you can endure it, then say the words. So the crystal got like bigger and like first of all, like why is the Celestial trying to make Apocalypse into this evil thing, whatever? I guess whatever. So the crystal shatters, but then because it's bigger, so the shards start moving to cover up Nur. I am the rocks of the eternal shore. Crash against me and be broken. So now he looks like the Apocalypse we know, with like the big A belt buckle and everything. There's a big flash of light. The place starts shaking. Rogue says that doesn't sound too good. Beast suggests that they get out of there. He was able to use pieces from ship to repair the time bands. Of course, very convenient. He's an expert on making time bands, I guess. He tosses it to Bishop. Rogue's like, hold on. We just rolled out the welcome mat for Nerd to become the deadliest can of worms the X-Men ever opened. We gotta stomp him out. Bishop's like, am I the only sane person in this loony bin? Y'all made a mess, messing up, helping Nerd get here. B says the mess that they were destined to make, as they may be destined to contain it. Professor's like, exactly, Hank. Our role here may not be finished. Bishop says to put on the damn tags or I'll drag your riddle-loving butts back to the future. Magneto says, no need to be the villain, not when you have me. So he uses his power to get everyone's bands to like engage. Rogue's like, damn it, Eric, don't do this. He's like, I made this mess. You X-Men will not sacrifice your lives in order to clean it. Not for me. Not again. So the portal opens. Charles like, stop this. Let us help. And Magneto's like, you are helping me honor my word when I told you I would bring you home, old friend. So Charles like grabs his cape. Magneto uses power. Flash of light, and it looks like both were thrown back. Magneto gets up and he sees a bunch of like purple smoke where Nur was. It clears and Apocalypse standing there. So the crystal shards that were on him like shatter and fall. Apocalypse grows like a little bigger. Magneto like stares up at him. Now, who is the god and who is the insect? So he turns to the chamber head. Bring me to the seat of Ramatut's kingdom. He shall be the first to taste my fury. And Ship's like, as you command. And the ship busts like out of the cliffside. Magneto floats up to Apocalypse. Please listen to me. I too once thought violence could heal the world. It cannot. Apocalypse like, violence can usher in a new age, forge of iron and blood, an age free of weakness and victims. That age begins now. And his hand turns into a drill. He pushes it at Magneto. Magneto blocks it with like a magnetic force field. Charles is there. He's like, you will do no such thing. He uses power. Apocalypse screams in agony. He sees his mom abandoning him. Magneto tells Charles to be careful. And Apocalypse like, you shall pay for your betrayal, mutant, right now. So he charges, flies at Charles. He's lying on the ground. Magneto moves in front of him, sends a bunch of like swords at Apocalypse, so he just like swats them away. Where the swords came from, I have no idea. Magneto lifts Charles and his chair, moves him away, says they must keep up the attack. Apocalypse punches Magneto's force bubble. Charles like, Ship, abort your commands. Request denied. Apologies. Ship approaches the dome. The woman with Ramatut says the flying vessel, it's Nur. And Ramatut's like, well, it was Nur. Now he is Apocalypse. This time is no longer mine to conquer. I must find another. So he bangs his like staff, and this hatch thing opens. There's like this little like golden sphere, like a chair in there or whatever. The lady's like, where are you going? He's like, fear not. Your destiny starts today. For his power can only be challenged by a force that is external. So apparently this lady must be an external. And she's like, what? What do you mean? The force field like blocks her. Rama like puts on a Kang helmet. He has his outfit. Somehow is in there. He put it on like super fast. Only time will tell. And he disappears. Apocalypse slams Magneto's force field ball. He jumps down to Magneto. Magneto lifts a big sword up, but Apocalypse made his right hand into like a bigger one. Charles continues trying to mind zap him. Apocalypse turns his gaze on Charles. This causes some feedback. Charles screams. He likes to scream. He screams a lot. He falls over out of his chair again. And Ner's like, or Apocalypse, to think I saw you as a prophet, and now you cannot even foresee your end. He turns his left hand. It's like two like big cannons. And Charles like, Magnus. And then Ner's like, ship destroyed a city until not an atom of it survives. As you command. A big energy blast is like unleashed. So I guess he's going to kill everyone. All the slaves, everyone. He doesn't care. Magneto looks hurt. Charles rolls up to Apocalypse. He's like, I would make a horseman out of you were it not for the lack of spine. But it's like, wait, what are you talking about, horseman? You're like, where do you like pull this out? Like pull this out of your butt? All of a sudden you're going to have horsemen? Because he's not even called Apocalypse. So it's not like the Horseman of Apocalypse, whatever. And also it's like, why does he have a giant A in his belt? He's Ensaba Nerd. He like leans forward and yells, ah! Magneto sends like a band of metal or swords or something at Apocalypse. It wraps around his like right wrist. He's like, get away from him. More blades fly at him, and he starts to plaster like the front of him. So he's all wrapped up in metal like a cocoon. Slams against the doorway and then out like into the sky. He goes like flying. And Charles like, Magnus, you're injured. And he's like, every living thing in the city is being eradicated. There must be something we can do. Charles like, the ship only obeys Apocalypse. And Magneto like floats up. Then I will stop it. Magnus, you cannot. The power is too great. Magnetism can bind the debris circling the black hole. You'll die. It is not enough to remember the mistakes of our past, Charles. And he embraces Charles. Honor me with action, not tears. The world needs you. It always has. Perhaps that is why I gladly played the devil who pushes sinners to embrace the saint. And he makes the metal sphere close up around Charles. So people in the city are screaming. Some are getting like sucked up into the big black hole in the sky. Magneto flies towards the black hole. He puts like an energy bubble around the like device thing. Charles, his sphere crashes out of the city limits. Magneto, he's like straining. He like moves ship towards like the black hole and energy backlash. Magneto screams. He falls. Charles watches him crash into sand dune nearby. Charles yells out his name and crawls to him. And Magneto's like groan. Then a shadow comes over the top of the dune. It's like, guess who? But it's like he was thrown so far away and he manages to get there to the exact right spot. It's like Apocalypse, I don't think he can fly unless he turned really big and took big leaps or big steps. I don't know. So he's like, you claim to be a teacher, but you failed to see the lesson. The ones you care for will be your undoing. And when that day finally comes, I will be all that is left. He steps towards Magneto, lifts him up by his head. And Charles like, get away from him. And he's like, now, Professor, lie to him as you have so often lied to me. Tell him it will be all right. And Charles like, Magnus, and a tear falls. I'm sorry, I can't. And Magneto's like, Charles, I'm sorry. Ah! Magneto lifts him completely, holds him by the head, turns his right hand into cannon, points it at Magneto's back. It glows, and Charles can see like Magneto's skeleton, his ribs. Pew! So we don't see that. We just see the like big light. Apocalypse tosses Magneto's helmet towards Charles. And Charles is like, how wise your mother was abandoning you. Do you think she sensed your vile nature? If only Baal had left you to bake. What a better world. And Apocalypse, I am a slave who tired and so became a god. Charles like, I know your future. You'll never be a god. You will always be a monster. But I will always be. He puts his big boot against Charles' forehead. Alas, only a coward feels mighty when stepping on ants. So then he walks over Charles. Charles crawls to the helmet. He stays there until night, and then Bishop returns. Charles, I'm sorry. And he's like, we couldn't stop him. We never stopped him. And then Bishop teleports them both away. But then there's a mid-credit scene. Captain America does some flips across rooftops. Logan's wearing like black with a knit cap. And he's like, smelled you coming a mile away, Boy Scout. Black Widow like pops up behind him, so I think she kind of got the drop on him. And then he like pops because she must have startled him. He pops his bone claws, and she's like, "Down, boy." And Captain America's like, "Good to see you again, Logan. Been a long time." And he's like, "About 50 years." It's like, "I see you staying inconspicuous. Stars and stripes still pull some weight, even in these times." So it's like, when exactly is this? Is not clear. Is this in the present now that he's back? He's got his bone claws. Because at first, you always think about the one Uncanny X-Men issue where, Together Again for the, what was it? I forget what it says on the cover. But it was a Jim Lee cover, and, you see Captain America, Wolverine, and Black Widow. So it's like, it tells the story of Black Widow when she was a child being kidnapped, and then it goes to the present. I think it's in Madripoor or whatever. So when I see this, it's like, is this like a flashback? But then, because Wolverine's got his bones, but then it could also be in the present because Wolverine doesn't have his adamantium, right? But if you've watched the next episode, because the next episode deals with this, and I haven't watched it yet. So he, Captain America pulls out a manila folder, and he took it like from his hand with, I don't know where he pulled it out of. Because he pulls out from behind the shield. Does he have like a pocket or slot behind there that we don't see? And the manila folder is marked Weapon X. And Black Widow's like, "Secrets like this don't stay buried by accident." Captain America's like, "I don't know what you're planning, Logan, and frankly, don't want to know. But as a friend, you can't go after these guys alone." He's like, "Don't worry your pretty feathers, Cap. I got myself a crew. Could even say I'm getting the old band back together." So see, I guess I'm just confused also because now I'm trying to think back, because Captain America, was it last season when like him and who was it with? Because Rogue and Captain America ended up fighting, and it's almost like they didn't know who they were. Maybe it's just a goof in continuity. I don't know, but that's the end of the episode. So, if I'm being honest, I'm not a big Apocalypse fan. So I didn't love the future stuff, the Ascani stuff with Cable, because it has to deal with that. Thank goodness we didn't have Strife. But yeah, and then now dealing with Apocalypse and Sabanur for 2 episodes. So we'll see. Then I did see, I think it was like IGN, I think they gave the next episode like a 5 whatever. So we'll see. That is X-Men 97, Season 2, Episode 3 and 4. All right, Silo, Season 3, Episode 2, It's All Good. It picks up from the last episode. So Juliet got the note. She's trying to burn, she's going to burn the note if they want to know the truth. But then there's a knock at her door. So she has to, put it out. She sticks it in her pocket. It's Camille, of course, and she says she was on her way home and wanted to check in because she has a big day with the council. She's like, "All good," and Juliet's like, "Yeah," and Camille's like, "You did good, at the council." And then she's like, "Smells like smoke in here," and she tries looking beyond Juliet, and she's like, "Oh," she's like, "I didn't like the soap, so I reheated some pizza." And so they must have been watching, because then Camille later is talking to the computer. There's video of it. So the computer's like, "The note itself is not of grave concern. What is of concern is her decision to lie to you about it." Because, the videos you see on the big holo camera thing, whatever, she's sitting by the sink lighting the note. "The medication can only erase what was, but if she does not trust the new narrative, we have a very different problem. And you, Camille, are the narrator she needs to trust." Camille's like, "I don't understand why this is taking so long. You said a month, 2 at the most." "We have 352 years of data which demonstrates the protocol is effective most of the time when implemented correctly. 6 silos have successfully undergone full resets, including your own 140 years ago." So this right here, it's not shocking to Camille at all. And yeah, 3 months have gone by because, Bernard obviously knew about the other silos, but Sims, I don't think he knew. Because, when he found the key, got the key off of Bernard, he didn't know what it was for. He didn't know what was in that room. And then now, Camille, it's like, I guess Sims probably does know. She's probably told him some stuff, but she was the only one allowed in the computer room. Sims had to leave. And, she's not phased. 352 years of data, as the computer says, and whatever. So he's like, and there have been individuals targeted along the way. Your frustration is noted. While it is largely proven effective, there have also been exceptions, outliers like Juliet Nichols, who have required extended treatment. You, Camille, are working with such an outlier. And she's like, I feel so much better now. So then computer's like, her dream indicates some memory of her return remains in her unconscious. Continue the medication protocol for 2 more weeks. Tighten her security detail and double your efforts to assure Nichols that you are her most trusted ally. In the past, Daniel's talking to his sister, Charlotte, in the hospital room, shows her like a picture of her house. He's like 30 miles out of Cartersville, kick-ass view to sunset over Pine Mountain. He's like, yeah, we had horses and ducks and goats. These 2 bulldogs, angriest dogs God put on earth. Only thing they ever did was chase us from the front gate to the house every time we got off the bus. He like chuckles. He's like, when I told you I'd been made the University of Georgia Bulldogs mascot, and he kind of trails off like expecting a reaction, but she just continues looking at him like listening. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And she's like, what? He's like, well, you laughed so hard that you pissed yourself. And she's like, ha. She's like, I don't sound like a very nice sister. And he's just like, Mom's name was Grace, Dad William. And she's like, please, I'm sorry, Donald. I don't know what to say. But his name's not Donald, it's Daniel. He's like, no, don't be sorry. He's like, I'm sorry. He goes to the break room to get a coffee, and it kind of like splashes on him, and he like curses, and there's a dude lying on the sofa, asks if he's all right, and Daniel's like, I don't usually swear at inanimate objects, and the guy's like, worst targets for rage. Besides, the machine's been asking for it for months. And Daniel starts like cleaning up like the mess on the floor. He's like, oh, don't worry about that. He's like, is everything okay? Daniel's like, yeah, my sister's here. Well, her body's here. I'm sitting there with someone I've spoken to every day for the last 3 decades, and she's looking at me like I'm the Uber driver. And the guy's like, you're Daniel. He's like, we've been expecting you. I'm Victor. And his last name, it's Crnkovich, but it's not pronounced Kernkovich. It like flows a little better than that, but I can't quite hear it, whatever. So he's like, I'm Charlotte's doctor. I'm afraid to tell you that I'm the reason she doesn't remember you. And it's like, what? Because then we get the intro. So he tells him it's like installing a drawbridge between her and her memory, a safety gap. Used for too long, the bridge stays up, becomes permanent. She never gets her memories back. But when she's stronger, they'll pause the medication, lower the bridge, go across, and choose what memories to bring back and what to leave behind. So Daniel's like, continues walking. And the Victor's like, I lost you with the drawbridge thing. And Danny's like, no, I don't know. Yes, this kind of conversation wasn't my list of things to try to get my head around today. He's like, the drawbridge comes down. He's like, how do you get her memories back? He's like, we tell her story over and over. And he's like, her story? Victor's like, why do humans rule the world and not the apes? And Danny's like, I don't know. Opposable thumb, better motor control, bigger brain, less hair. Victor's like, okay, let's try this. What do you do all day? Danny's like, right now, call up total strangers and beg them for money. He's like, exactly. He's like, you reach out to people and you tell them a story. You take a set of data and you weave meaning around it. It's what we do. We're storytellers, meaning makers. It's our only superpower. We're just a collection of stories we've told ourselves. Memory is our internal biography, information that we've hopped up with meaning to tell us who we are. The medication has erased the book of Charlotte. Like I said, we'll stop the meds, and memory by memory, you'll fill it back up again with her story. Daniel's like, memory by memory? And he's like, memory by memory. Loving sister, brilliant naval aviator, even the Missile to Iran. But this time, you have a choice, Daniel. You have a choice not to cripple her with the whole truth, the trauma of what happened to her squadron. You have a choice to leave that behind. And he's like, could I tell her a lie and she'd believe it? And he's like, why would you lie? Danny's like, well, she has a few opinions about me. I wouldn't mind her forgetting. He's like, actually, you could implant a lie. It would take a lot of time and great effort. The real memories ignite faster because they're already there on the page. She just can't see them. You'll need artifacts to bring back the old memory. So this is obviously, why are we seeing this? This is what they're doing to Juliet. They've erased her memories. They're implanting false ones. So you'll need artifacts to bring back the old memories, objects from her life, her childhood. Memory is the body, not just a brain. It's in the smells of the past and the meaning that we wrapped around objects we had when we were kids. We use them like shortcuts to ignite the neural pathways. Danny's like, our parents said when we were young, we moved in with our aunt. There was not a lot of stuff from our childhood. Victor's like, I'm sorry. There's something else between the ones and zeros. It's not just neurons and axons. There's something else, something mysterious like a soul. And it won't be controlled by me or anyone else. So sometimes, maybe 10% of the time, it does not work. But she's responding well, so you have reason to hope, okay? In the silos, Sheriff Billings reading over parts of the pact. A deputy knocks on the door, says a woman fell out missing persons form. She won't leave until she's talked to him. So she kind of pushes her way through. She says, it's not a regular missing persons report. So he has her sit, ask for the person's name. She says, Orla Kent. She's her sister. So Orla Kent was who we saw. And Paul's like, shadow to the head of supply? He's like, I saw her yesterday at the council, and I spoke to her. And she's missing? And the sister's like, she comes to me every night after her shift. Last night, nothing. Paul's like, maybe she went home and crashed? And sister's like, no, she'd poured her a note. My parents are old. They worry. That's our deal. Since we were kids, no unexplained absences, no room to worry. It's like, look, I know you're busy with a whole lot of stuff that's more important to everyone else in the silo, but something's wrong. I know it in my bones. I lied to my parents. I told them Orla stayed with me last night. I can't lie to them again. He's like, okay. So he types Carla McLean in supply, need word on Orla Kent. She needs to contact her sister. In the past, at a coffee shop, Daniel's talking to Anna, the senator's daughter. He says a process of bringing memories by sister's brains, pick parts and rebuild her souls, very Frankenstein-like. She's like, well, who are we if not the sum of our memories, right? She thought she might go and check on her if it's okay. She's like, I never served, so, me bringing her magazines and stuff, it's the least I can do, in service of our country or whatever. And he's like, sure. Then there's another woman, and she sees him. She's like, Daniel. So it's Helen, the reporter. And I don't think I realized in the beginning. I don't even know if I realized at this point. I think it was later in this episode. But it's Jessica Henwick. She was in something else after Iron Fist. I like her. I think she's really good. And well, anyway, so she's in this now. And I think I knew that. I must have known that, but whatever. So he's like, oh, have you met Anna Thurman? And he's like, Helen Drew. So Helen's like, not officially. She's like, everyone says that your mother's talking points are bulletproof since, she roped you in. So Danny's like, Helen and I accidentally ended up on a date. And Helen's like, ooh. She's like, not a date. It's like, listen, I just went by your office. I heard about your sister. I wanted to say sorry. He's like, thanks. And Helen's like, is she at Walter Reed? He's like, no. They transferred her to the Heidi Sensen Clinic. Helen's like, wow. It's like, someone must have pulled some serious strings. Can't imagine a naval aviator would have that kind of money tucked away. And Anna's like, actually, I think you'll find that Dr. Krinkovich or whatever has been treating combat veterans free of charge for years now. Helen's like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, his first trial was on prison populations in countries too indebted to the USA to say no. His second was with the DOD on first-year recruits who don't get a say in their medical treatment. And in both cases, he took big blackboard erasers and wiped out their memories. So it's like she knows a lot, which is impressive. And it's like he let traumatized combat vets forget the horrors they saw. He let career criminals forget that they were criminals and become productive members of society. Helen's like, right. But he decides what people remember and what they don't remember. Does that worry you? Daniel's like, well, it's a little more complicated than that. And she's my sister. Everything since she became a fighter pilot worries me. Helen's like, is it too cynical to say that he's using injured vets to test his theories? And he's like, Helen. And it's like, Victor lost his wife and child in a car accident when he fell asleep at the wheel. My guess is he's got more skin in the trauma game than most. And she's like, And then she looks at Daniel. Take care. And send Charlotte my best. He's like, sure. So she leaves. And it's like, you met with a reporter and you thought it was a date? Politician's a reporter, he's like, it's transactional. Yes, I know. He's like, I was, and Anna's like, distracted? Well as being quite good looking, she's also good at her job, even if the only one she could get was a poopy one. And Danny's like, is she not at the post? And Anna's like, no, she hasn't been there for a year. She was a bad girl. She's at some online sleaze factory now. Still, she's a reporter, and she got what she wanted, and you get nothing. Danny's like, what'd she get? And Anna's like, you told her where Charlotte's being treated, and you told her for free. In the silo, Juliet sits in her living room. She's looking at the note. She compares her writing to this other one. It says, first council meeting at noon, Mid's cafeteria. It doesn't match. Then she gets a memory of Shirley visiting her when she was locked up with like the box of the the good heat tape or whatever. She said she should take the whole box for luck. And then the note was in there. You wanted the truth. The truth is, I love you. Have no fear. They're good in supply. So that was from Walker. Before she was sent out to clean. So she gets up to leave. There's a deputy sitting outside her door. Tries to question where she's going. Starts following her when she doesn't stop. He's like, Mrs. Sims asked me to log our movements more formally today. Down below, whatever, Shirley is talking to some guy, says, go back to supply. If they don't find more rebar for the stairs, only be ready for their grandchildren or something like that. It's going to take them longer. And then she says Juliet like walking, so she tells a guy to cover for her. She ducks into this other area. Knox is in there. He's like, you still got to talk to her. And Shirley's like, I can't. He's like, she asked for your help. And Shirley's like, I can't. So Juliet's talking to some guy, and he's like, okay, maybe I should check with someone if it's safe and all to go down. And she's like, why? Who would you check with? It's like, I'm the mayor. This is my security. Knox comes up and asks the dude, Teddy. He's like, what's going on? Teddy says the mayor wants to go down. And Knox is like, Madam Mayor, he's like, can I ask why you want to go down? And Juliet's like, do I have to give you a reason? And he's like, well, I'm in charge of rebuilding the stairs, and no one gets on a rope without my say-so. And she nods and steps closer. She's like, I don't really remember you. He's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, and I have this feeling we didn't really see eye to eye. He's like, we did all right. And Juliet's like, I want to talk to Martha Walker. And Knox is like, well, you're in luck. She went up to 60 to get some medical supplies. She should be back down any second. Juliet's like, right, well, we'll wait. And he's like, Madam Mayor, while you wait, can I talk to you for a second in private? And she's like, yeah, sure. So she tells the deputy it's okay. And he's like, they sit like a little ways away. He's like, I poop. He's like, Camille gave us all instructions how to talk to you so I don't fudge up your recovery. She's like, it's okay, go ahead. He's like, you asked Shirley about Bernard Holland. And she's like, yeah. This morning she remembered something. I don't know if this is helpful, but during the rebellion, a guy came down. He said he was Bernard's shadow. Well, we didn't have time for him. Cheryl was just going to throw him in a cell, but he said he knew you. He said that when you went over the hill, someone had seen you go inside, and maybe you were still alive. Juliet's like, did he say who? He's like, no. All I know is Cheryl took him down to the digger void. He was looking for something at the bottom. He wouldn't say what it was, but if this guy was really Bernard's shadow, maybe he could help you. And Juliet's like, what was his name? And he's like, Lucas Kyle. So in the past, Helen walks in the clinic lobby, and she's talking about, she's heading towards the front desk. She's, carrying just a bunch of stuff. She's like, I'm going to have a sister in my next life. She's like, I'm done doing things for someone else who should be doing them himself. And she's like, hi. She's like, let me start over. I'm with Congressman Daniel Keene's office. He asked me to stop by, check on his sister, maybe get her outside. Back at the silo, Juliet's like, why didn't Shirley tell me herself? And he's like, I think we're all struggling with how to wrap our heads around what you remember and what you don't. And I know that you won't remember this, but Shirley, she armors up when she's hurting. I mean, when you first came back, Cheryl camped outside your hospital room for 10 days straight. She wouldn't leave your side. I practically had to carry her back down to mechanical. And then when the rumor started that you'd lost a lot of your memory in the fire, but Cheryl wouldn't have it. You wouldn't forget her. She ran up 144 levels to be there your first time out in the cafeteria. Waited in the back, let everyone get their piece of you, and then when it was her turn, you looked straight through her. I just think talking to you hurts a little too much right now. Here's Walker. He's like, Madam Mayor, this is Martha Walker. And Walk's like, don't bother. She has no idea who I am, do you? And Juliet doesn't say anything. She's like, let's start with something simple. Do you still drink coffee? Or am I not allowed to ask because you're too fragile? And Juliet's like, I drink coffee. She's like, good. So they go to the cafeteria. Walks, asks her, what have they been telling her? And Juliet's like, well, they said that I used to spend a lot of time in your workshop. And people see Juliet, they're like, Madam Mayor, it's like, come in front of us. They're in the food line. They want her to cut in front of them. Walk's like, she can wait like the rest of us. And so I love Walker. She's just like kind of like sassy and everything. And Juliet's like, so I know that my main responsibility was a generator, right? But I want to know, why did I spend so much time with you? Walk's like, you came for advice, which you never took. And Juliet's like, why? And Walk's like, pigheadedness, arrogance. So they go and sit. So why'd you want to see me? Juliet's like, I got a note last night. Did you send it? She's like, it wasn't me. What'd it say? Juliet doesn't say anything. And she's like, you don't trust me. And Juliet shrugs. I want to trust you. And she's like, yeah. She's like, yeah. Why would that be? Juliet's like, I remember you sent me a note the day that I went out to clean. And walks like kind of dart over to see who might be listening. Juliet whispers, she's like, they're good in supply, which showed me that you had swapped the heat tape, something that you could have been sent out to clean for. And you wouldn't do that to anyone. You would do that to someone that you... And she's like, yeah, well, that was then. So what? You don't remember something? Poof, it's gone. Might as well just not have existed. And Juliet's like, okay, well, the note I got said, if you want to know the truth, go to the marketplace at 2 o'clock. So I want to know, do I go to the marketplace? Do I go? And Walker shakes her head. She's like, you know what was the most irritating thing about you? If there was a problem, a question, a decision to be made, and everyone was pointing in one direction, you would decide that the only direction to go was the opposite. And Judith's like, right, okay, that's quite irritating. And Walker's like, no, what was irritating was that 99% of the time you were right because you trusted your gut. So my question to you now is, what does your gut say? And she's like, I can't. And Walks like, you see, the person I risked my life for, she was a fighter. She would have fought with every inch of stubbornness, arrogance, pigheadedness in her body. Juliet's like, and Walker like gets up and she's like, that's it? Walker sets down a tool, which is Juliet's tool, I'm assuming. And she's like, what's that? And Walker's like, are you even trying to remember? Juliet's like, what do you mean? I'm here, right? So yeah, what I get... And she looks around and whispers, she's like, I get splinters of memories or something. I don't know what it is. And the more I try and hold on to it, it just slips away. So I don't know what to do. And she's like, try harder. And she walks away. So this could be like what she needs, what the Victor said, doctor, she needs relics, of her past. In the past, Helen wheels Charlotte outside and Charlotte's like, I don't remember you. And Helen's like, that's okay. I'm not taking it personally. And Charlotte's like, you're the only one. So they go over to a bench and she talks about how, everyone expects her to remember stuff and they keep asking her things. They want her to vomit up something of value. And Helen's like, you have any military visitors yet? Hoping that you'll vomit up something of value. And Charlotte's like, not yet. She's like, mostly my brother hovering over me, sweating bullets that I'll remember something. You remember him? And Helen's like, well, for the record, I'm a reporter and I want you to vomit up something too. We met a couple of times. Something was bothering you about the mission to Iran. And Charlotte's like, I don't remember anything about the mission. And Helen's like, part of what I do is help people get their story straight, okay? I help them fill in the blanks. So she takes out like a notepad and pen. So I thought I could tell you what I know about the mission and what they're saying officially. And maybe that'll help stir something up. And then Charlotte's like looking at like the notepad and the pen in her hand. And her breathing starts getting like more rapid, and it's like she's almost like getting agitated. There's a flashback to a car in the rain. She's inside with Helen, who's like writing in her notebook. And then Helen's like, Charlotte, are you okay? Hey. And she kind of flinches away or whatever, and they're like sitting there. Victor's watching from a little ways away. In the silo, in the future, whatever, marketplace, Juliet's walking with the deputy. He asks if she's okay. She's like, yeah. And she's like looking around for whoever she's supposed to meet. She has no idea. Everyone's like staring at her since she's a mayor, plus she's Juliet, Nichols. Clock says it's like 5 to 2. And she tells deputy, she's like, I know it's not part of the orders, but I need some space. She's like, can I get 30 minutes? Or he's like, have you met Mrs. Sims? I let you out of my sight. She'll use my intestines for dental floss. And Juliet's like, I know, but I need to. And then I think it might be the 3 women who were at the cafeteria in the last episode. One's like, Juliet. And then they start like rushing towards her, and Juliet like kind of flinches back. The deputy's like, hey, slow down. It's like, give the mayor some space. Back up. Then Juliet, she decides to make her move. And she's like, did you touch me? And she like shoves him. And she's like, he fudging touched me. And then the woman and some other people kind of like pin him against the wall. You need to take your hands off her. Juliet sneaks off. She like walks. She's looking around. She has no idea again who she's looking for. And then a guard, like an armor and helmet, like mask on the lower part of her face, comes up to her. She's like, ma'am, are you lost? Then she says quietly, if you want the truth, come with me. In the past, Daniel rushes to Charlotte's room. Victor's in there, getting her to like match his breathing and calm down and everything like that. Then talks to Daniel out in the hall. Daniel's walking out. Victor says that Charlotte seemed to know her. Daniel asks if he called the police, and Victor's like, no, he was waiting for you. Actually, so then they go in this other room. Helen's sitting there on a sofa. I'm assuming like security's there or whatever. Daniel kind of glares at her. At the silo, Juliet goes with the mystery woman. She takes some back halls and into this room. There's like 3 people in there. And she's like, who are you? And Patrick Kennedy, he kind of chuckles. And she's like, what? He's like, I'm the man you strong-armed into helping you with the hard drive. And she's like, what? He's like, Patrick Kennedy, whose life never sucked more than when I met you. She's like, you're one of the fugitives. And then the other guy, Danny, who helped her also, he's like, you screwed my life too, landed me in judicial seclusion, trying to forget it. Probably never will. And the lady's like, Sandy, I worked with you when you were sheriff. You didn't screw up my life, but I still don't like you. So she was like secretary, whatever, in the sheriff's department, whatever, up top. And Joe's like, okay, and you sent me the note? Patrick's like, well, I didn't. She did. She wrote it. I don't know why she wrote it, the whole thing about the truth. Joe's like, you sent me the note? And Sandy's like, because I wanted her to show up. And Patrick's like, okay, yeah, but what you should have said was, why are you lying about the outside? Juliet's like, oh, I'm not lying. What do you mean? He's like, the Jane Carmody video, I saw you see it. And she like shrugs. He's like, the flowers and the trees. And Danny's like, and the birds? And Patrick's like, and then you went outside and you came back, right? So why are you saying it's not safe? She's like, it's not safe because it's not safe. Sandy's like, when you went over the hill, what did you see? And Juliet's like, I've seen what we've all seen. I walk over the hill and then I walk into a refuge hut, right? Sandy's like, but do you remember that? Really? Or are you just remembering what you've been shown? And she's like, no, I don't know. Patrick points to her. He's like, then maybe they did it. Maybe they actually did it. And she's like, what? He's like, hold on 1 second. And Danny's like, you remember the drugs that Sims offered me? Swallow these pills and you'll forget that we led your wife to her grave. He's like, do you remember that? I said it was BS. And she's like, hey. And Patrick's like, maybe it's not BS. And then Juliet's like, what if your head injury is not because of the fire? Let me ask you something. Are you receiving a lot of medical attention right now? She's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. Like being asked to swallow a whole bunch of pills? She's like, yeah. He's like, wake the fudge up, people. He's like, I'm sorry, but you are the only one who has ever gone out and survived. And now, surprise, Sir Fudging Prize, she doesn't remember anything except what they tell her. And then Sandy's like, get the helmets. In the past, Helen's walking out. Daniel's like, what the fudge are you doing? And Helen's like, what she wanted. Our non-date? I wasn't randomly fishing for information. He's like, I know. You went to Charlotte for a story, and then when you didn't get it, you came to me. And Helen's like, no, you idiot. I didn't go to her. She came to me. She read my stuff. She thought she could trust me and we met in secret. There were questions that she wanted to ask, questions that she couldn't ask. The best she could do was point me in the right direction. He's like, right direction for what? Helen says, she thought something was off about the mission to Iran. She thought you might be willing to use what little congressional power you've got to try and find some answers. He's like, what kind of questions? And Helen's like, the kind that an administration with a hard-on for going to war with Iran don't want asked? Like, was the dirty bomb attack on D.C. even real? She told me that not all missions planned for Iran were related to the nukes. The one that she was on, going to the mountains up next to Turkmenistan, their planes were going to be loaded with bunker busters. She said that they pulled out the comms unit and installed the old school system from the 80s. He's like, why would they do that? And she's like, what do old comms give you? You don't want an email hacked? You use a typewriter. You don't want your planes hacked? You take them out of the digital playing field. She said, might as well be flying Tomcats. Everyone else in Charlotte's squadron is dead, and she scores a magical transfer here, where her treatment will what? Make sure she never remembers what happened? I didn't sneak in there today to get some story. Your sister wanted the truth badly enough to risk her career and risk going to jail for it. I think she still does, which just leaves the questions. Was she right in sending me to you for help? So I guess that's the other thing. Like, what was that mission? What was that black sludge? Because I thought the sludge made her forget, but no, it's this drug. It's like, yeah. At the marketplace in Silo, Camille and Billings, they're talking to this woman. She said that then a raider came up behind her. They talked for a few seconds, and Juliet followed the raider, down an alley into one of the storage rooms. Billings like, which storage room? And the lady like hesitates. She's like, I can show you, but there's something I want in return. And Camille's like, and what might that be? In the storage room, they pull out 2 helmets. Sandy's like, this is one we grabbed from IT the other day. Printed inside is the number 18. Same number as on the hard drive. But this one, the helmet you wore back, it says 17. Juliet takes it, and she starts getting some flashes, and she sits. She's thinking back to like when she was in the other silo and everything. Sandy's like, Juliet, you had a sign. You held it up to the camera. It said, not safe. Do not come out. I worked for you. I know your handwriting. You didn't write it. who wrote the sign? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know. It's fudging gone. So the soldiers are going down the hall to the storage area. There's someone like sitting there with like a hoodie on, a lookout, and it's just a woman. So when they walk by her, and she does like a big whistle, and then like someone further down whistles too. So it's like their signal to let them know. So Danny's like, great, what now? Sandy's like, we get back to looking for Lucas Kyle. And Patrick's like, 92 days without a sighting, but you know what they say, 93rd day's a charm. And Julia's like, hey, wait, Lucas Kyle? Sandy's like, yeah, he was Bernard's shadow. And Julia's like, no, I know. Why are you looking for him? And Danny's like, because before he became Bernard's shadow, he was in the mines. And she's like, why? Sandy's like, because you showed him a red level relic and he didn't report it? Patrick's like, I figured you showed him the hard drive. And Julia's like, I don't remember giving him. And Patrick's like, yeah, I know. You don't remember anything. I got it. And she's like, well, wait, stop. So Lucas is sent to the mines, but why then did Bernard pull him out? Why? I don't get it. Patrick's like, that's what we're trying to figure out. And Sandy's like, but he hasn't been seen since the rebellion. And then they hear the whistle. So Patrick's like, get her out of here. Go. So they, pick up the helmets, or they push Juliet out, and there's a lady like guard out there. She's like, Madam Mayor. She's like, step aside, please. They go to the door. The door's locked. And she's like, bring the ram. Camille's like, are you all right? Dylan's like, hold on. It's like, clear the mayor. Get her out. So they move her out, and they bust the door open, and it looks like a regular storage room. And, they're looking around. There's nothing here. But then the lady sees a little light, like under a wall, by a sink. She kind of kicks at the wall, pushes, bangs, and then she pulls the sink forward, and there's like a door, and it opens up, like towards her. And there's a tunnel kind of like carved into the concrete with like lights, like hanging. So they see their escape route. Camille asks Juliet, like, what did Kennedy want? And Juliet's like, he just kept going on about it being safe outside, that I was lying, that I need to tell the truth. And Camille's like, but you know the truth. And Juliet's like, yeah, I do. And then Camille's like, when you had the dream about Bernard, you said there was something you had to do, but couldn't remember what. And Juliet's like, yeah. And then Camille's like, did Kennedy say anything about that? And she's like, what? No. No, he just kept yelling that I need to tell everyone that it's good outside. And Camille's like, that's all he said? She's like, yeah. And Camille's like, okay, look, you get that because of the note. You walked blindly into something that could have gone very wrong. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, this is why I have Jerry on you, okay? Because the only way I can keep you safe is if we're in it together. And Juliet's like, okay. She's like, there can't be secrets. And Juliet's like, I know. I didn't think it through, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I know. And Camille's like, okay. And Juliet's like, are we good? And Camille's like, not quite. I need you to meet someone. And she like points. It's a girl. She's like, why? Camille's like, she followed you. The only way she'd tell us where you were is if she could talk to you. I said she could have 1 minute. And Juliet's like, are you kidding me? She's like, I'm tired. She's like, it's a minute. And Juliet's like, okay. Then Camille's like, this is, and the girl's like, Juliet. And Juliet's like, right. And the girl's like, we call ourselves that in tribute. So Juliet nods, and she sees like a mark and like a tattoo, like some lines on her arm. She's like, oh. She's like, did it hurt getting that? The girl's like, a bit, a lot actually. And Juliet's like, do you know what it means? And she's like, no. And Juliet's like, no? And the girl's like, we just thought that if you had it, then it must mean something good. And Juliet's like, right. And the girl's like, would you tell me what it means? And Juliet's like, sorry, what's your name? What do your parents call you? She's like, Evelyn. And she's like, Evelyn, well, that's a good name. I don't know what it means. I don't even remember getting it. So I guess you just got marks on your body that don't mean anything. But yeah, sorry. And she turns and starts to leave. And then the girl's like, maybe not. You went out and you came back to keep us from killing ourselves. So if these lines mean nothing else to you, well, they mean that to us. And Evelyn walks away. So at least some people believe that, I think most people believe that, Juliet saved them, did the right thing. So they walk up some more. Camille says, let's not have that day again, okay? And Juliet's like, yeah. And then she walks off, and then Jerry starts, there's 2 things I want to say to you. He's like, hey, it's like, thing 1, that's stunting the market, not cool. And Juliet like nods. He's like, I am not the kind of man who would ever lay hands on a woman. I honor this badge and my wife. Juliet's like, yeah, that was a poopy thing to do. And I'm just not myself right now. Yeah? He's like, yeah. He's like, thing 2, I've been thinking about this whole mayoral security thing. It basically feels like we're treating you like a prisoner, and it's not sitting right with me. He's like, okay, if you want to get away from all this, take some time for yourself, you can tell me. I'll find a way to make it work. And Juliet's like, what about Camille? He's like, you're my mayor. You let me worry about Mrs. Sims. And she nods, and they continue. Billings hesitates in the hall before entering his apartment. His wife's bandaging up her arm. He's like, you might want to wear long sleeves till that heals. They're looking for a woman with damaged right wrist. I've looked at the other way for weeks, Kat. He's like, I haven't put my foot down associating with Kenny. She's like, your foot down? You're really going to go there? He's like, I don't know where the fudge I'm going. And she's like, you saw the page. The World Was Beautiful. So it was the magazine that they found. But it's like, how old was that magazine? And he's like, you think you need to remind me? I've spent my whole life living by something, enforcing something which is, and she's like, a lie? He's like, no, not all of it. But if you think there's not a single day I don't choke on the irony of being asked to help rewrite the pact, how many times do I see the things that I believed in are wrong? But what you're doing, I can't tell you or Kennedy or anyone else what to think. But today, things went too far. Think what you want. Don't break into IT. Don't grab the mayor. And she's like, your daughter is sleeping. He's like, it's a miracle no one else saw you. What if they had? What happens then when they tell me my wife is in the middle of this? She's like, I don't know, Paul. I'm struggling to get a beat on things too. And he goes over to the computer. There's a message. No sign of Orla Kent. And he's like, I gotta go. And she's like, where? He's like, the mids. There's a missing person. So the nurse is with Juliet. Says her blood pressure is a little high, not surprising. So time for your vitamins. And she's like, thanks. So she takes some. Nurse is kind of like, packing up. She's like sort of watching, not super closely, but looking at Juliet, make sure she takes it. She's like, all right, bye. And Juliet's like, bye. Then as soon as she leaves, she goes to the sink, spits them out, the vitamin. But it's like, what about the cameras? Then she goes out. She tells, there's a different officer there, a woman. She says she's hungry. She's going to go to the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, she goes to the big screen, sits on a table. Looks at like the stars. Then she puts her finger and thumbs into like a W and holds them up because that's what she did before. And there's a flashback. She's like, I never noticed that before. And he's like, yeah, well, now you have. I think, was that Patrick? Or no, was that someone? I don't remember who it was, but whatever. So someone asked if she'd like to order something. I don't know if it was the officer, someone working there. She's still holding her hands up. She's like, no, I'm good. But then the nurse is back in Juliet's apartment and the lights are off. So I don't know. Because she lights a match, she lifts like the drain cover and sees a pill in there. So she knows that Juliet spit out the drug. But I don't know if, because Camille she's in the computer room right now. So I don't know if they saw Juliet spit out the pill or if she just had a hunch and she decided to, because like, why didn't she turn on the lights? I don't know. So Camille's talking to the computer. She's like, on the upside, I think it gave her a scare. She apologized for not telling me about the note straight away. Computer's like, so you believe things are back on track? Camille's like, well, I can't vouch for tomorrow, but today, yes, I think they are. Computer's like, after her return, Juliet's survival was unwelcome, but the numbers indicate it was tolerable, perhaps even beneficial. So there's like two lines, like a sort of graph. The blue line represents the calming value in the silo of having Juliet Nichols as mayor. The red line, it's like below, the red line is the risk she poses if the memory protocol is not successful. So, but then like at the end, the red line goes up above the blue. If those lines cross, Juliet Nichols will have outlived her usefulness. The problem, of course, is that a sudden removal of Juliet would be catastrophically destabilizing. We can only hope that the introduction of the vitamin compound into the water supply happens before that becomes necessary. And then we see dudes are pulling big barrels of the water marked vitamin D, like on sleds up the stairs. And so we saw that last episode where we were talking about getting the vitamin. But if they're putting this compound in the water, is it only going to be in Juliet's water? Because obviously they can't make everyone forget stuff. He says that the computer said for her to do the pills for 2 more weeks. So is it going to take a couple weeks to set this up? And is Juliet going to... Because she may stop taking the pills, but if they start putting the compound in her water, she's not going to know, and then it's not going to make any difference. So I don't know. But that's the episode. That's the end of the episode. So I'm still curious, like, what the heck is going on? and because it's like, who is running this? Because when she talked to someone in the other silo, or during those radios, is it just like the whoever's in charge, like the Bernard type people? Is it just computers running all this AI to protect humanity? I don't know. So that's the episode. But again, if you're listening, let me know if you want to keep hearing about it, or should I just stop? I mean, I've abandoned shows in the past. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes that these episodes are too long. I don't know. And now the movie feature is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Let me just say right away, holy crap! This movie, I mean, it was epic. I mean, it was something. So let's back up. How do I feel about old timey stuff? I'm not a fan. It bores me. Swords and armor, it's like whatever. But this, it was something about it, and I have no like horse in the race. I don't know why I keep going back to that saying. I have had nothing invested in the Odyssey. I was never forced to read the Odyssey. I don't think. I know I never read it, but I've mentioned in the past in one of my English classes, we had this literature book that had excerpts of different stories. It wasn't the entire things. It's so weird. It's like some condensed version. And I know I've mentioned this because I remember reading Beowulf in there, but it wasn't the entire thing. So I never had to read the Odyssey. At my school that I teach at, sixth graders, they read like a sixth grade, like children, like kids version, whatever of it. But I know nothing about the Odyssey. Now, the interesting thing, I was talking to my friend who hasn't seen it yet, and because I wanted to say something about Matt Damon's character. I was like, do you know who Matt Damon played in the movie? And he's like, it's the same character that Brad Pitt played in Troy. And then I was like, you know what? I was like, I don't think I've ever seen Troy. And I could be wrong, because Troy, I don't have it in front of me. I think Troy came out 2004 or something like that. But I'm almost positive I hadn't seen it, even though it was Brad Pitt. There's like a lot of other actors in that movie too. But it's probably, if it was 2004, I don't know why I wouldn't have seen it. I mean, I didn't have a thing against old-timey stuff back then. But anyways, no, Matt Damon is not playing the same character as Brad Pitt. What I wanted to say without... I don't know if it's a spoiler, because people are like, oh, who... I think it was a spoiler, like, who is Tom Holland playing? And I don't know if people knew who Matt Damon was playing. Again, I know nothing about the Odyssey, so I just know it was like written, directed for the screen by Christopher Nolan. So obviously he adapted and added things and changed things, tweaked things. I don't know how closely it lines up. I'm curious, but I don't know if I would ever go and like try reading it, because I feel like it'd be very, very dense, very archaic writing. I could be wrong. I don't know if it's been updated or whatever. But the funny thing about Matt Damon is he kind of always plays the same character, like in The Martian or Saving Private Ryan or whatever. So if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But where do I want to go with this now? This movie. Oh, so like Matt Damon's character is in Troy, because I looked up the credits, but it's played some other, I won't say who, in case if it's a spoiler or whatever. Someone else plays that character. So obviously, I'm assuming in Troy, Brad Pitt's character was the main character, and in this version, Matt Damon is kind of like the main character. But this movie was just bonkers. And I did see one comment on one. I think it was like a user review. I didn't want to read too many of them, and this was like right before I started recording here. But one person said it kind of dragged on, and it's like I had a feeling this was going to happen. It always feels like people are talking about like movies being too long and dragging. I don't get that. I also saw like on Reddit someone said that it's a little confusing at the beginning, and maybe it was. I mean, because when they're talking about stuff, it's like I don't know who any of these characters are because I don't know anything about the original material. But it wasn't that bad. So I mean, the thing is, it's a 3-hour movie. I was engaged the entire time. I mean, I was there. I did not feel like it dragged, and part of it, despite being a 3-hour movie, I kind of embraced every bit that we got, and I think part of it was seeing it like on the IMAX screen and just the sound. Oh my God, the sound! I just wonder, it's like I don't know if the other auditoriums like next to this one, if they could hear it. There were some parts it was like you could like. It's not just feeling it in your chest. You just like felt it like in your inner being. You could just feel like stuff. And I'll talk about that in a bit, unless I forget. But you definitely need to see it in a IMAX theater. It was just so massive. And I feel like I was talking about something else before this, but it's just massive telling. And so I was engaged for 3 hours, and it just I don't feel like it ever dragged or anything. I was like every little bit. I mean, there were some parts where I was kind of getting a little antsy. I was like, man, just get there already. Just get to the end. Just get to the end. So, but it's like catastrophe. It's like obstacle. Like all these bad things, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like not another fight, not another disaster, this and whatever. It's like just get there already. And but it's like kind of silly because most of these things, they were like kind of flashback stories that were being told, so it's not like they're gonna get there right away. Yeah, it was just something. I think I mentioned like the Resident Evil movie that's coming out September, the runtime's 95 minutes. See, to me, that is super short and brief. And I don't know if that's going to be playing in IMAX. It's like, I don't know if I want to pay $25 for a 95-minute movie. But this, man, every bit matters. And it's just like, there's just so much going on, so much to see. I've just found out this week, or last week, whatever, before seeing it, that IMAX projectors can only show movies. It has to be under 3 hours. So I think that there was like a longer cut of this that Nolan had to cut things down. And it's also interesting. I think the cameras can only film for like 3 minutes on a roll of film or whatever. So it's like, that's crazy. They have to shoot something, then okay, cut and change the film, or unless they got multiple cameras, I don't know. But like all this stuff's like super crazy expensive and everything. So yeah, it is 3 hours or 2 hours and 51 minutes or something like that. But it is literally like an epic. And again, for me, not liking old-timey stuff, and there's just so many massive actors. So the budget, I always wonder with these movies, the budget is $250 million. I'm always curious, when you have like these all-star movies, do the actors take like pay cuts? Or maybe they do like back end deals, like, okay, I'll take a smaller salary, but I want to get in on a profit or something. There's got to be something, because if someone's normally like, I get 10 million per movie, I don't even know what the going rate is. Maybe that's too much. Maybe I get 3 million, or because I think Millie Acott got like 400,000 just for doing Supergirl. But she probably had a back end deal, which I don't know if she's going to get anything because the movie's not profitable, whatever. So it's just crazy. All these actors. You got Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Lupita Nyong'o. Let's see John Leguizamo. I was like, I didn't even realize that was him. I was like, he looks familiar. It's like, who is this? And then it clicked in later. You got Zendaya, Charlize Theron, John Bernthal, Himesh Patel, Elliot Page, and I'm sure there's like Mia Goth. There's like all these people that it's crazy, and then just like everything else. So $250 million. Yeah, you got this massive, this all-star cast, and I know some people complaining. I saw like the morning of some people. There was an article or something like that, or I don't remember if it was Reddit or if it was just something where people were complaining that not everyone was speaking in like a British accent. Because, some people were saying how there's not Greek actors and there's this and that. So for me, because I'm not heavily invested in this, I'm okay whatever with this cast. I think they all did a great job. Now there were some probably racist things. Some people complaining about a couple of the act. It's just I don't know. It's a story, and it's not. Yeah, it mainly took place in Greece, but who's to say that there's not someone that came in from another land or what? I don't know. It's just. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and are there really like diehard Odyssey fans? They're like, oh no, that's the wrong cast. You can't. And there might be some people that are really into it. But it's different. Like if you were gonna do like who's someone like let's say Batman, since Batman's not official. If all of a sudden you get like an Irish actor, redheaded, a ginger Batman, or a black Batman, or a Latino Batman, it might seem a little weird because despite whatever, Batman is a white dude. And I'm not saying that he can't be a different ethnicity, but it's just like I feel like he should just be a white dude. And we've gone through this like so many times. I shouldn't even bother going down this path. But I guess like there's been some discrepancy where some of the characters, the way they were described in the book or something like that. I don't remember if it might have been Helen of Troy. I don't remember if it was Helen of Troy or if it was Athena. One of the two. The way the people were like, that's not how she was. I think it might have been Lupita Nyong'o. They're like, that's not how she was described in the book and whatever like that, because she was supposed to be the face that launched 1,000 ships or something like that. But it's just people are just racist. That's what it seems to it. I mean, I don't know. The cast was great, but I say this as someone who is not like a hardcore fan. I do not know how they were described. I feel like in most literature, they don't always necessarily describe in detail. They may give you hints of something, but I don't know. I just feel like we need to go over that or look past that. Now, the other thing, Christopher Nolan he's like movie magic. The stuff that he does, and I know a lot of people question Tenet. I only saw Tenet once. I liked the movie. I thought it was weird, and then the way it ended, it's like, whoa, what? But I was okay with it because I think I got it. A lot of people say they're confused. I was like, it's not that confusing. It's just the flipping and it. I kind of liked it, and it reminded me of Memento in a different way. But it's just not really a twist, but something that you didn't really see coming, and I like that. And you look at like Inception, and all those were there's like something there, and just the stuff that he created. The Batman movies, they were fine. I haven't watched those in years. I can't say. I mean, unless I sit and watch all of them again, I don't think I was like blown away by the Batman movies as much as like Memento and Inception, and it's. I think part of it I did, and here's the thing. Here's the difference. When we found out who Liam Neeson was playing, I was like that's in Batman Begins. I was like, that's not even what he's supposed to look like. That's how you're depicting him, and I was okay with it. I wasn't super crazy about it. But I'm like, okay, whatever. And then we moved on from there. So then we never saw him again. So I can kind of see, but again, it's not, you can't be racist about it. And you always have to look at when they do casting, because I don't think someone's going to be like, oh, we need to cast, we need a Latino. Hey, John Leguizamo, you want to do this role? They they probably have the casting sheets, and they look at all the people, and they're like, who does the best job? Who gives the best performance in this interview or whatever. I can't see someone investing millions and millions of dollars, and you're going to say, well, this actor would have been amazing, but they're white, so we need to get someone who is not white to balance things out. So even though they are the best actor, we're going to settle for someone less. No, what they're going to do is, if they're not if they're not going to put a restriction that it has to be a white, it has to be male, or it has to be female, or it has to be this, they're just going to say who is the best person for the job, and then boom, you're hired. So, but yeah, we spend too much time on that. With Christopher Nolan, I mean, he's just amazing stuff. And even like Oppenheimer, I can't say that it's my favorite movie because it's like historical stuff, which is fine. I respect that, but it was an extremely well-made movie. I mean, I was engaged. I was like, okay, this is interesting. And, I didn't know the whole story. And I don't know, again, how accurate was that compared to, I don't know how accurate this movie, Odyssey, is to the book. So I think we just have to go into look at it like that is, things are never going to be exact, which is what's irritating with Supergirl, where a lot of people are complaining that it's not accurate to the comic. The comic was so colorful and the movie was not. And it's like, are you not watching anything? What about the fact that Superman's parents in Superman is totally different from the comics? Or what about the fact that in Man of Steel, Superman murders General Zod? And no one complains about that, but they'll complain about Supergirl because it's not the same as a comic. It's like they're never the same. And then there's a bunch of people who did not like the comic, but whatever. So we got the Odyssey, and for me, not having read the book, not being like Homer is my favorite author, whoever, Homer's Odyssey, whatever. I whoever you cast Matt Damon, Tom, whatever, cast who you want, whoever you think is the best. I'm gonna go with it. I have no idea what they're supposed to look like, and like I said, I don't even remember. I don't even know if I saw Troy, where some of these same characters were cast by different actors. I don't know. And I watched this movie. I don't think I've seen that movie. So it was just, they did a great job. So I talked about the budget was $250 million, but right now, let's see, I saw something. So it is early as I record this, so I don't know what the weekend total is going to be. The fact that it's an IMAX will help, because that's going to give more money. Yeah, so it's like several of these showings sold out in the first 12 hours of availability. Okay, by the end of June, Odyssey was projected having opening range of 80 to 100 million. Deadline Hollywood said the large format pre-sales skewed heavily to Nolan's cinephile base, as well as having exclusive access to IMAX screens for the first 3 weeks. So this is why Spider-Man's not in IMAX. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to see how it does, if it's going to be like over 100 million. Worldwide, it could be over 200 million. It's I don't know. Like, how much did it do? Do I even have opening? I don't think I have that. It costs a lot, 250 million. But even if you look at that, I mean, what was Supergirl? Okay, so according to Wikipedia, Supergirl's budget was between 170 million to 186 million. So let's say 180 million, 250 million. Yeah, that's a lot, but it doesn't seem like a whole lot. Toy Story 5, the budget was 250 million. So Toy Story 5 and the Odyssey have the same budget. Disclosure Day was 115 million. Death of Robin Hood was 20 million. So 250 million. And, they say it has to make 3 times as much, almost 2.5 times, And it's going to do that. It should easily do that. But I don't know what else there is to say about this. This movie was incredible, and I think I mentioned seeing it. You got to see an IMAX if possible. I am so grateful there's an IMAX theater, even if it's not full size. It's it's a big screen and just a sound system. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. So what I will say, without spoiling anything, getting specifics, but you probably heard that there is a Cyclops scene, and oh my gosh, that was so loud. And there's one thing that was just, it was so loud, and again, you could just like feel it just vibrating through you, and it wasn't like an annoying like oh, this is hurting my ears. It was just like a solid sound, and just like the music and just the action. And then the other, I think the other part where things get really crazy intense is when they're fighting these big armored soldiers, and it's so just like heavy and just loud and just like whoosh, and like I said, you feel it, and just the action and just the craziness and the high stakes. There's just a lot. And then I will say also to Matt Damon, his dog, that he got his dog. It was a runt when it was little, his hunting dog, and I think it was so cute. And it was sad because, well, I'm not going to go into detail, but yeah. And Tom Holland was great. It's been interesting seeing a lot of the interviews how he was like super nervous because it's a Christopher Nolan movie. And I don't know what if we should elevate things, because Christopher Nolan is just, he's an amazing director. Is he like a god level director? Maybe he is. And it's hard to say, because I know he has his hardcore fans, like people are going to see his stuff no matter what. But I have seen a lot of people complaining and criticizing, so maybe that's not necessarily the case. But he does have his way of doing things, and I feel like he's very strict, and he does have a lot of power. Where if you are going to do a Christopher Nolan movie, there's a lot at stake. You are bringing your A game to this. You're not just going to be able to stroll in late or do this. There's going to be a lot of expectations to do that. And it was kind of, because the thing is, Tom Holland, he's a great actor too. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's just Spider-Man, or oh, look, he was in Uncharted. But if you look at that Apple TV movie he did, The Minds of, or I forget what it was called. That movie, man, and he gave an amazing performance in that. That was heartbreaking performance. So he is good in this. Anne Hathaway, she is so great. I wish I've seen more of her movies, but a lot of movies just not stuff that I would watch. But the stuff that I have watched, she's been good, and I feel like where she done. I don't watch the Devil Wears Prada movies, but it's like she take a break from acting, or she just do a bunch of stuff that I haven't seen. So there's just so many. And Matt Damon, oh my God, he was so good in this. Just Robert Pattinson, oh man, he's good, but this movie, ugh. So yeah, there's just you got to see the movie. You should see it on the big screen if you are lucky. If you are able to, obviously see it in IMAX. I don't know, that it's not everyone has an IMAX theater near them. And, for the longest time I didn't. And I was one that's like, I'm not driving into the city just to see it on an IMAX screen. So I am so incredibly thankful that I have this opportunity now to watch them. And yeah, it's costing me maybe $7 to $10 more, but it's definitely worth it. It's an experience for these big epic movies like this. And like I said, I don't know if as much as I am looking forward to seeing Resident Evil, I don't know if I want to pay $25 to see that. Maybe, I don't know. So you got to see. So even if you don't have an IMAX theater, you got to see this in a theater. You got to see in the biggest screen, and hopefully the theater you see it has a good sound system
that it's got to be loud, and not just like turn up the volume loud, but you got to have good speakers and everything like that. So it's just it's incredible, and I didn't think I was gonna like it like this. I kind of joked that it's like, oh, I kind of want to like it because all the people complaining about it stupidly, but yeah, I was just so impressed, and even like going up to it, I'm like, I gotta go watch the Odyssey. It's like I know it's gonna be good, but it's 3 hours. Like I don't know, man. It was something. So I'm just like blown away by it. It's just I'm in awe. I have like so much respect for everyone involved in this movie because it was crazy. And like I said, I don't have any attachment to the source material. I think it was great. Some people complain. Oh, I don't think I finished talking about the accents because normally in these period pieces, whatever, the kind of accepted thing is everyone talks with a British accent. And you look at like Star Wars. All the people in the Empire, they're all British. It's I don't know if I think some people are saying it's more pleasant or to your ear. I don't know. But here we have people. You got John Bernthal. He's John Bernthal playing his character, and it didn't bother me. It didn't take me out. It might bother some people. I guess it's a decision for whatever reason. Christopher Nolan's like, we're going to do this. And I almost feel like it's fine like that rather than try to have them work with dialect coaches to make everyone try to talk with a British accent. Because, they're not going to talk with Greek accents because they just don't. Sorry. So I think it's fine like that. But then like Tom Holland didn't speak with, he spoke with an American accent, right? But I guess there's a reason for that. So I don't know. I really love this movie. I'm so impressed with it, and I think you should see it. And I don't think there's anything more I can say. I don't want to spoil things, get into stuff, but it was just everything was just phenomenal. So that is me, and maybe I'm just on the high movie buzz from just haven't seen it, but it was good. It was something. So you should definitely check it out. And that is going to be it. Thank you for checking out this episode, but that is the podcast for this week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the Secret Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment, 30-ish minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. I just did another Off My Mind. I wasn't planning on it, but I talked about whether or not you should recast or reboot or just continue a franchise if like a major actor decides to quit or walk away or whatever, or what do you do? And like you can say. It was mainly about like the Bruce Campbell, the Evil Dead movies, and he doesn't want to do it anymore. He's done his part, but also like what about like Robert Downey? He's not a good example, but you look at a Marvel character. Like what's going to happen? Like Tom Holland. Like what if he didn't want to do Brand New Day? Would they just say, well, we're not going to have Spider-Man anymore? Could they recast at this point and still have it tied in to the Marvel universe, or can we not do that? It's going to be hard. Like same like T'Challa in Black Panther. Should they recast? Can anyone accept that? So you can hear about that. Sometimes talk about old classic comics. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about this week, but if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com. Coffee.com. I had to think about that. /Gman from Heck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That is ko-fi.com/Gman from Heck. What is going to be the movie feature for next week? I really don't know. What I would like it to be is I don't know anything about this movie, but it's Her Private Hell. It has Sophie Thatcher. So Sophie Thatcher, I think she's a great actor. She's in Yellow Jackets. She was in Companion. She was in Heretic, The Heretic, right? the Hugh Grant one. So I think she's just amazing. I don't really know anything about it. It's being distributed by Neon, and I think I saw the trailer. It looks kind of crazy. It's kind of got that little indie feel to it, but yeah, I'm not really sure what this is about. What are they calling this? Yeah. So the problem is, as I record this, my theater does not have tickets for it, and they kind of have the full. It looks like maybe they can squeeze in some preview times. I don't know. And then, because here's the other concerning thing. I was like, well, what about the neighboring theater, a different chain? They don't have times listed either. And then, so I go on Fandango and I just just typed in the movie, and they have some times in San Francisco listed. So that is concerning, that if they have Thursday times for San Francisco, but they don't have it closer to me, then maybe it's not going to get a wide release, which sucks. Because if I can't see that movie, this is like crazy. We're in the middle of summer, and it's like, what else is there? There's Pinocchio Unstrung. I don't even know if anyone's going to, who's even putting this movie out. I don't know if this is going to be playing anywhere. See, 72 Hours on Netflix. There's an Avatar Aang, Last Airbender movie on Paramount, I think. Paramount Plus. There's The Dink on a pickleball comedy. I'm not going to watch that. Who's doing the Ben Stiller, Christine Taylor, Pat Oswald, Chris Parnell. That's on Apple Plus. I don't think I'm going to watch that. There's Motor City. Motor City's Alan Richson. Is this actually going to be in theaters? It looks like it'd be another like Amazon movie. Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to see, because if I don't see that, I mean, I'm not going to see Moana. There's The Invite, which Seth Rogen, Olivia Wilde, Penelope Cruz, Edward Norton. Maybe. My buddy saw it, and he really loved it. Yeah, so I don't know. So we'll see. I'd like to see, what was it called again? Her Private Hell. I'd like to see her. It's either going to be Her Private Hell or The Invite, because there's like nothing else, which stinks. Because we're in friggin' July. It should be like blockbuster movies all the time. But maybe they don't want to open anything because Odyssey just opened. So they're like, yeah, we're not going to compete with that. So I don't know. We'll see. And then we'll do My Adventure Superman, X-Men 97, maybe Silo. I don't know. I haven't decided. That's going to be it. So this is the longest outro ever. Thank you for listening. I can't believe this summer is flying by so quickly. I'm going to have to start school soon, and I am not looking forward to the school year. I will try not to complain about it on the podcast. But I hope you are doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're doing fun things. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.